start over?
Nope. All good. All we have was introductions. It's all good.
But for Lonnie's sake, why don't we go ahead and introduce everybody else around the table? We got Irv and then.
Soon to be president. Soon to be president.
My God.
Dwayne Cooper, treasurer.
I'm Scott Baylor, EVP.
Mark Holderman, leadership training.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
Good. And Russell Shaner, president. So, okay. Let's see, did you want to,
Recording in progress.
With echo.
that's fine, just ignore, you're used to that, right?
Yes.
Let us know some things, what's going on, anything that you'd like to share with us.
So basically, my goal this weekend is to talk with every single person I can talk about any concerns that I can help address. I mean, I don't have all the answers, but I certainly am a good peer to vent. And so if you have anybody who's just kind of struggling with things, and wants to talk to somebody, maybe just some more thoughts to have a conversation, discussion. My most important goal is to really talk about next year's barbershop, and I'll be talking a lot about that set contest in my 15-minute brief. So we'll get to hear all about great things that happen next year with the barbershop. It's really starting to pick up and move forward, so I'm going to celebrate that myself. Give people a chance to celebrate with me. So I hope I offer everything that you need this weekend. Don't feel bad if you want to keep me up late. I'm still young.
So the piece of that too, that I want to touch on early, I don't know if you're going to mention Jim Clark's attendance this weekend. Is he on your agenda for anything?
No, not at all. Jim is here just to be here with us and sing with us and share tags and songs and stuff. I did talk to him about the Rocky Mountain just finished theirs spring convention, and they had a piece where they did the prelims as that was necessary, and then they did a Harmony Ranch. So we're gonna talk to him and just see if that's something an ingredient or not, or whatever, just find out how they did that.
Cool.
That's one of the reasons he's here, so he can share. They just had theirs last week, so I thought that was really cool.
And the segue onto that
Go ahead.
was, so I encourage Lonnie to talk about fundraising for directly to BHS because of the next generation connection should be the best opportunities we have to raise money. So Lonnie will also be able to direct people to the website and how to donate money directly to the society.
Okay, Gary, so the next one, approval of the agenda, is that right?
Sorry, you chat.
It's okay. Did we need,
Agenda or minutes? You have to approve the agenda. I recommend we approve the agenda. Thank you. Second.
all in favor?
Hi.
Aye. There you go.
Any opposed? No.
I'm on our local school board in Curtis, so I know how to do these. Okay. Yeah, anytime the meeting gets draggy, you just.
Okay, so the next, here's the part, it says see Hannah on it, approval of the minutes. It says Hannah right there, so.
Okay, everybody got a copy of the minutes from the last meeting, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Anybody have any changes, objections, problems? Because the job is available.
We could probably work with you if you wanted.
Then I need a motion to approve the minutes.
So
moved. Second. You're the one that can call.
I'm just making sure you're done.
Yes, I'm ready.
All approved? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? No. Good. All right, next is the treasurer's report.
I did send it out late last night. It's easy to give a treasurer's report when you have no activity. I actually have not prepared the Form 990 for 2021 yet. It's due May 15th unless I file an extension. I'm trying to decide whether I'm going to do the short form or the long form this year. Apparently with no activity, we can do the 990N. But on that topic, the division managing directors might want to remind their chapters that 990N is due by May 15th. So first report for 2021, we had net income of $34,000. And that's why we adopted a large negative budget for this year, because we hope we can spend some of it. Member dues were 27,000, unrestricted donations at 9,800, which is under $2,000. Handful of small expenses. So we're building up and as of December 31st, we had a cash balance in the bank of $129,540, which might be the highest amount we've ever had in the bank ever. So, but we do need to start providing some services to our chapters so we can spend some of that money. The cash balance at 12/31 was $129,540.39, and no liabilities at that point. So.
If I read it right, now we're at 151.
Yeah, so that's the report at 12/31, and I will file our 990 based on with those numbers before May 15th. Now, year to date through April 30th, I actually waited till I did this a couple of nights ago, so we closed through April. We have received the first. Let's see, we already have received two quarters worth of dues because we got the fourth quarter of 2021 and the first quarter of 2022 now. So we've got just under $12,000 of dues revenue. We did have a successful Top Gun this year. We charged for the 4 quartets $400 each, and we spent about $4,500 on that program. So it's a net district investment about $3,000. And hopefully we'll have some of those quartets will qualify for international. We did receive a check from Harmony Foundation for thanking all of our district members who share a portion of the money that they send to HFI. We also have somebody in the room that donates through BHS, and we get a monthly stipend. Thank you, Lee, who shall remain anonymous, or not. So we have about $5,100 of donations in the first 4 months of the year. So we ought to be around 10 grand again on that number. That's basically the expenses we spent. So net income through the first 4 months. Now, this does include $8,500 of convention registrations. Okay, so that cash will be turned around. Actually, John Schneider spent it today. Just told me put $9,000 on the credit card. I hope your dinner was worth it. So the cash balance as of April 30th is $154,894. I'll hand you the sheet, Gary. And again, we'll probably spend about. We do have a check to that I have for Jack for $2,500 for the convention here for the school. We had a $2,500 deposit sitting out there for 3 years, and then we paid the other half. So I've got a check for you. Don't forget that. $2,500 extra for that, and the rooms, and then all of your expenses when you get home, you'll send to me, and we'll reimburse your mileage at 30 cents a mile.
So roughly, once we're at 154 right now, but that's before the 9,000 and the 2,500 come out of that.
Right.
Is there anything else that we know that's coming out of that right now? Or are we going to be at about 135 by the time we're done?
It's probably going to be closer to 130.
Okay.
I really haven't tried to guesstimate. I ended up with Jack or John to figure out exactly what we're going to lose on this convention. But I'm sure we're calling it an investment also to get everybody back together.
We will also have to be shared at some point in time.
Oh, that's true. Do
Because they're sharing it among all of the districts now. And so, and
you remember when that comes out? I don't think I ever got it. They instituted that program and then COVID hit.
yeah, so we haven't seen it actually in action yet, so I don't know how it's going to turn out.
Yeah, so Mike had requested, we do a small judge stipend too. They get $30 to cover some incidentals, and we cover their transportation to and from the hotel this weekend. So that's under $1,000 in total, I think, the judges. But I'm guessing, what do you think? Anybody want to, let's take a little raffle tonight and see who guesses our loss closest to the. No, I'm gonna guess a $5,000 loss, maybe. It'll be worse than that.
Loss or how much?
When the law, I'm talking about just what we think we could just net loss at the end. John, you can help me break out the hotel bill between board expenses versus,
It's interesting. Line item. Take all the Rocky stuff out, it'll make money.
okay.
Hey, I'm cheap. Speak of the devil.
How many registrations did we end up at for the spring convention here?
Gary, you got that number in front of you?
179.
Paid or total?
They don't get a registration.
Is that up or down?
That way down.
That's way down.
So you remember the auditorium seats 300 max? And the way, depending on how many practice judges we have to cut out a few seats on that. So,
We were shooting for 275, remember, Jack?
Yeah, that's how many seats we thought. we might have
So
available.
we only hit about 2/3 of them.
How many do we have?
179.
179.
We're not done. Look at school.
You gonna go pull 100 people off the street there, John?
Well, no, but Jim Clark said he would help you with it.
Well, we brought in the master, so it's good.
Listen, it's gonna be 102 on Saturday. People are gonna be wanting to get up.
we charge extra for the air conditioning. Because apparently we're not using it tonight.
It takes a week. All right.
So any questions about the budget? Submit that for approval. Or not budget, sorry. I actually didn't. Just remind you, I think we approved a negative $22,000 budget for 20. So encourage your chapters to have activities, have a next generation activity. We are committed Katie's been pushing. Katie's on here in case everybody didn't know.
Everybody say hi, Katie.
Hello.
She's pushing our scholarships to Harmony University really hard. The district itself, we offered 10 scholarships. And as of a couple weeks ago, Katie had successfully awarded 5 of those. And I'm sorry, Katie, should I take away all your thunder tonight?
Oh, no,
Sorry.
it's great. You're doing great.
So we're pushing 5 more and just want everybody to encourage that first timer that's never been to HU to take advantage of those while the district's paying. This is the most we've ever offered.
So out of curiosity, we're a third of the way through the year. How much do you suppose of that budget that we had set aside for this year that was a $22,000 loss? How much have we spent already? Are we on target? Are we ahead?
Well, no, well, year to date, we're plus 20, we're plus 22. So we're going the wrong direction. So now we have $44,000 to spend. So, I mean, obviously the fall conventions were the big expense.
Sure.
Anything with increase in Upton, give them a little extra money.
I don't remember an extra money discussion, but Top Gun ought to have a fall. They'll do their summer one right in August, we hope. And Mike Bortz has that program running like a
Right.
Swiss car?
Swiss car, yes.
What's the pro forma for the fall budget?
Whatever we did last time. Like, I think the only question in there is how many tickets you think we're gonna sell. I think it's probably helping that we offered a buy to all courses. So this weekend it's not qualifying. So any course that wants to compete in the fall will be there.
How many registrations? Did
I will look that up for you. I'm guessing we probably only did like 450, 400, if I remember correctly. Jack,
I don't know, it's breeze, but,
I will turn my computer back on just for John Schneider.
And if we, I mean, I believe 450, something like that was what we were hoping.
Do we budget to break even or?
I think break even.
Yeah.
I'll tell you here in a minute.
How many registered? 19.
No, he wanted to know what the budget was. I'm looking it up. Give me a minute. Y'all, but, did you vote on approve or accepting the report? That's my treasurer's report. And I will announce the budget for the fall in just a minute.
I moved to accept the report.
Second.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
I'm gonna go back to sleep now. Thanks.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Hello.
Let's welcome Jack Westbrook.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Jack, you're welcome.
Good to see your faces.
And I was getting, but he's just sat next to me. Is that okay? All right.
Just moving things
Oh,
along.
and
No,
let's all
just-
welcome Jim Clark. We're looking forward to seeing with you and hearing about your division, I'm sorry, your spring convention. We've had a talk about what we're trying to do, some things to help to make interest to our members. And good. So, thank you very much. All right, Gary, we just know old business, right? Okay, so if we could, let's start with Ed. Could you give us a breakdown of that, unless you want me to see?
Start with.
Actually, it looks like I budgeted
Well,
$27,000
actually, I'm gonna start
loss.
with you, because you're the newest guy.
No.
So the spotlight's gonna be on you. See this? See this thing right here? I'm gonna move my glass. You're gonna get spotlighted on the Zoom. I'm gonna move back too. So
As well.
the big thing, sir, is if we could have is, remember that we did this survey to the chapters.
Yes.
Kind of give us a quick breakdown of that, and also what's going on with the courses that are communicating with you. Are there any specific highlights of what they need? Anything that we can be talking about this weekend?
So the biggest thing from our Northwest division is there are still a lot of them that are pulling out of COVID. And it's probably still the biggest thing on their minds. Those of them who have started meeting and coming back are not at full strength yet. And there are some that are so small that, for example, our Panhandle, Oklahoma chapter, they stopped for COVID. And remember, that was our Liberal Kansas chapter, right? And they still have no set date to return because of such low.
Panhandle, Oklahoma.
They surrendered their charter. Okay.
So he was right.
That must be why they stopped communicating.
They said that directly to.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks for that. We do have sparks of life, though. We've got definitely our Arlington and Fort Worth chapters are meeting, doing well. I have had some success with getting in touch with our Adeline chapters and, of course, our Plano chapter. They're looking for, in general, whenever we send out the survey, they're generally looking for ways to renew interest in membership is their goal. They are feeling, I think, what a lot of our sister chapters and sister districts are feeling is it's tough. And it was tough before COVID happened, yeah? So they're looking for all the membership support that they can get. Coming to conventions for them right now is secondary 2 remaining viable chapters. So anything that we can do in that arena to energize not only chapter participation for those who have members, but also trying to find new members, that's what they're looking for.
Thank you, Judge. If we can, please talk to, say a great greeting to our one and only, the most outstanding, Mr. Charlie. We're so glad to see you, my friend. We're so glad to see you.
Well, it's good to be seen at my age.
Yes. It's good.
Thank you.
I was membership guy and I came down to New Orleans and I was just coming in just to see how they were doing. I didn't want to disturb them. They were getting ready for a show and I was the only one. It was a beautiful little church they were in. I was in the audience just by myself. Leave them alone, let them do their thing. And all of a sudden, after they were practicing a couple songs, and all of a sudden, now the back of the chorus, he says, "Guys, do you know who that guy is?" Stop the whole chorus, stop their whole thing, stop the director's flow and everything. And that's Russell Shanner. Let's go say hi. Okay. Let's try to be impromptu, shh, quiet. So I could just let them do their thing. It's always been a joy to know you. Thank you. Thank you. Richard, would you kind of give us the same synopsis of the survey that we talked about, and then of course what he said? Well, there's specific chapters that have specific needs. That's what I'm trying to dig down to, so we can think about that. What can we do?
Well, we've got some strong chapters really in the Southwest. Austin is still doing very well. Katie's really got them moving. Actually, San Angelo, they're holding up and they've done a show. And at least we see some chapters that are back out in front of the public.
Houston.
Enjoying what they're doing.
Houston.
However.
Well, what about
membership is
Houston?
down.
Houston.
Well, Houston's not, he's gonna talk to you about Houston.
Okay, well,
Okay,
never mind.
I remember, but I'm.
But what do you think from the board? You heard we've got some money there. So is there something specific that comes?
These guys need help with membership. That's what they need.
Okay, but
And this monthly thing, although it hasn't really grabbed hold like it could.
There's been a lot more interest leading up. Well, I'll talk about that. When we get around.
Okay, yeah, the monthly membership Zoom meeting is a good thing. Yeah. And I haven't yet looked at the one that I missed, the one that you recorded.
Yep, it's on YouTube.
That was a good one. I use Facebook. And if you haven't, you could go out, anybody can go out and look at it. That has some real possibility using Facebook. And I want to really push that. Although a lot of the guys in our smaller chapters probably don't know that much about using it, and maybe not even have groups that they can really.
are some of them close enough that they could do merge shows or something, or?
They could, up and down I-35, they could, and
Okay.
have.
Okay. All right.
But it's, they're still coming out of COVID, membership is down. But hopefully with getting back together, that will change. And we'll see some improvement with that. And now I think we can actually go out and visit the chapter, which they haven't had a visit in 2 years. So we'll be doing it.
That's something that we've had great success with. Is actually, that's why we have the 4 people to actually talk to them one-on-one and become their friends. Or not tell them how to do it. Why are you doing it this way? God, stop doing that. But becoming their friends. When COVID first hit, I wasn't even D&D, and my old division was calling me and said, "What just happened? What are we going to do? How do we do this?" We're working on it. Return calls back to you as soon as we find out what we can do. I mean, that's the first day, first thing it hit. Lord have mercy. So it's a matter of trust with these individuals. They're doing a great job.
Yes, we need to get out and talk to them.
Southeast Division, Monroe and Nederland are still not meeting. Of course, they weren't meeting before COVID. On the way out, I think. Keep talking to the two contacts that I have.
Could I get you to speak just a little louder? I'm trying to record and I can barely hear you myself. Thank you.
Matt Rouge is down by the water. He's very successful.
And the reason why they didn't come here, I'm talking about the project, because Daniel and his wife,
Excuses, excuses.
Now, what about?
basically doing great. Doing great. Hanging in there, we're still using that quartet. But going back to the survey part, some both ways, but the majority of the ones that info there is that they want to have the three separate and rooms and mix. Also, no overall change. That some wanted it. Two conventions. Everybody's on. I guess that's our chapter, East Texas. Frank Pearson is our director, driving all the way from Grand College Station to Tyler. To direct us. We're doing fine, we're stay busy, we have a couple things going on. And our octet is going to be sitting Memorial Day. We have a show set up, hopefully September 10th. It's still waiting on the contract for the venue at Howard Junior College and the new auditorium. And possibly Legacy of Harmony will be on the show. And there's a Swing Out of Minds chapter. Gilmer that is without that. There's possibly.
So he's in East Texas and they've just been doing gangbusters, staying together even during COVID. They stayed together and just kept staying together and believing each other.
As grief shut down when everybody else did. We decided, actually, the church had shut down.
Yeah.
This is a wonderful church.
Yeah.
And then, so this lady who used to be our choreographer lady, she opened up one of her dance studios for us. wide open, nice air conditioning and everything. Great sound, and it just sounds so much better than ever. And we were that until the church opened back up. And then we've been going gangbusters.
Richard is our IPP, but he's also president of Houston. Could you share with us some of the things specifically like youth harmony, the next generation thing that y'all did?
Yeah,
And what's going on specifically with the chorus now?
we're actually quite busy. We're all in. That's the main thing. This year, we've had a very successful Valentine program. We are now putting together 3 good time shows, starting next week from Saturday. It's our first.
And when was the next gen? The next generation?
Yeah. We have we submitted virtual, virtual song course, and 3 of our guys act as judges. They judged those videos and awarded 3 cash awards to them. And just help them out. We will invite one of the winners here on. So there's a synergy with the youth.
And they're excited. Their course is one of the major ones that have done it for years and years. So
Yeah.
thing is there.
There's more going on, but
You need to talk to them. Okay?
I'm sorry, when did that happen? What, the quartet? We completed that program about 3 weeks.
So there's still time for you to
Yes.
highlight it.
We talked to him. Tell me who I can get the details. Stuff needs to go on.
Bob?
Yeah.
Bob Records?
Yeah. He used to.
Go ahead, John.
Now, I have a concern about giving money directly to quartet from a legal nonprofit status. I think if you gave money to the school music program, that would be
Well,
fine.
John, I stand corrected. It's to the schools.
Okay.
In the name of the. Yeah, quartet.
What took you so long?
Point well taken.
And so the other division handles Oklahoma and the Arkansas region. We have Hot Springs, which is always just steady. And they do this thing where they invite folks to be on their show. All, not just singers. It could be violinists. It could be anything. I mean, they're all across the board. So we need to get that contact for you so that you find out what they're doing. It's not in the same vein of the regular thing like the old thing, the way we used to do it. It's their way of reaching into the community, and there's nobody else that does it like that.
Well, I have some ideas on that.
Okay, there you go. All right, Gary, what's next, sir? Oh, okay. Want to introduce Mr. Jack Westbrook.
Are we going to keep going around? Or?
Well, that was the D&Ds.
Gotcha.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Did you want me to finish the treasury report while it's still fresh?
Sure.
Before. Well, I found more money. No, I just lost more money. No, to go back to John's questions. We budgeted to make $35,000 in registration fee income in the fall. I calculated that at 466 registrations at $75. So 466 at 75, that's down. I think the high point, most registrations we ever sold for that ballroom in Dallas is close to 700, maybe 750 back at our high point. We budgeted to lose $2,700 on the ball. We actually budgeted to make 15,000 in registrations this weekend. We're at just at 9,000. So we had budgeted to lose 1,700 on this convention. It's probably going to be closer to 6,700. Sorry, I didn't have those numbers at my fingertips earlier.
I can't believe you failed.
And we actually budgeted to lose $27,000 this year. And had we had perfect knowledge, I probably would have budgeted to lose 34,000 since that's what we made last year. We're trying to spend what we made in the prior year.
We had 440 registrations.
440. Hey. Does that count the 100? I think we sold store in total. We budgeted, I think 2019 was the first time we were seeing a lot of the fall off, because I think I budgeted almost 600 registrations at $75 each, and we only hit 475 or 440. Yeah, so we really, right. So we have to basically hit our 2019 numbers to hit the budget for this fall. You've done a great job of getting daily reports out, by the way. Those daily emails.
Last I heard, we're playing with the book majority.
I spoke with the president.
Saving grace.
They are planning. They are planning.
Okay, Gary, what's the next?
The next thing is, we need to read into the minutes, the motions that have been decided since the 2021 Fall Board of Directors meeting. These are motions handled online. We've done one, it's motion 2022-1 to waive SWD contest rules to accommodate the proposed slate of contests for spring 2022 only. Then the next item is unfinished business. We have no unfinished business. Then new business, we have a motion for consideration. Southwestern District motion 4022-2. That's a two, right?
Yeah.
That the Southwestern District Board elect Jack Westbrook to the position of Vice President of Membership Development. Current unexpired term to December 31st. Made by Russell Shanner.
I'll second.
Who seconded? Ed?
It's just so Ed didn't have to do it himself.
Yeah, because he'll volunteer you.
And Mr. President, the motion for discussion.
Okay, very good. I just want you to know Jack's been on the board before, and we talked for a little bit about Scott's options and what he's trying to do in membership and with our chapters. And so they're going to be talking more about how we can do this, how we can drive those things that you said, helping folks with membership. And again, I think this is just another person that's talking to the people. Okay, they're talking mostly to the presidents. He can talk to the membership guys. You have a question? No. Okay, so he's going to be working very closely with Scott, our vice president, about how we can do that and just keep working to, you know, make motion, make those things. And maybe there might be something that'll come up that says, okay, we need to do something now. Okay, in some way, whatever we have to do, we're going to make that happen. So any other further discussion, input?
You don't need me to go away while you
No,
discuss it?
no.
Okay.
Hey, you ain't got shoulders for this.
I'm
You know.
okay. I got thick skin.
All right, I'd like to call for the votes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Congratulations.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies.
Yes, we can do that. All right, next.
Mr. President, comments and discussion about future.
Okay. One of the biggest things that we all know is our future conventions. And there's so many options, so many things, and our thing is everything is possible. So the most important thing is what's important to the members. As we found out, the course has said that will come if we get coaching. We've never done that before. 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever, you know, so the right people are in that again, as we talked about before. I'm talking to her because I'm including her in the family, and thank you very much. So, Scott, you want to kind of lead us a little bit, facilitate us through the discussions?
Well, so we're talking about spring versus fall specifically?
Well, there's that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we have two topics that we really need. One of them that we have to do is what awards, how do we want to
Right.
award? Because we need that for the fall, if nothing else. In the spring, fall, we also really have.
Yeah, let's start with the second one that you just mentioned.
Because John is very concerned that we need to like make a decision on the spring, yes or no. kind of thing.
Personally, I think we need to make a decision on both of these tonight.
Okay.
Okay, because we have to report to the HOD tomorrow. Okay. So the first that we'll discuss as it relates to the fall, and that is, are we going to have contests in a single gender neutral or gender free, genderless contest as international has done? Or are we going to do as we planned in previous conventions when we were planning for 2021 and such? And a lot of the feedback that we've received from the survey is that a lot of our chapters and chapter members are asking to have three. They're asking to have men's, women's, and mixed for both quartets and choruses. Now, that doesn't preclude us from having an overall champion that we send international to compete in the international competitions under those genderless rules, if you will. But we need to decide what we want to do for the fall vis-a-vis 3 versus 1. Mike?
Yeah, I was gonna say, if I may, sorry, if I could just jump in there real quick. For internationals and for the international prelims, that is set by the Society Contest and Judgment. Okay, that committee. All right, they set the rules for that, and we have to go by what. Right. So we do know that for all of the international prelims, that means for anything that's going for the international, the seniors and for quartets and for choruses, for all three of those. They are, as they call them, gender blind. Okay? And so the qualification is gender blind, as are the contests. Okay? And that's not for us at district level to decide. That's decided by them. From the district level, they give us the option to decide what we want to do at the district to serve our. So I just wanted to make that very clear in terms of what we can do and what we can't. So.
Anybody have any questions on what you just outlined? Ed, you were going to ask something?
No, I was going to make a comment that from the Northwest, they were more majority for having that one champion closer to international.
Which is interesting because the other 3 divisions all suggested the other direction. So that part is part of our conundrum that we're facing here, is because, nobody's going to agree on this. So we have to decide what our members really want. Can you tell us a little bit about how your division spoke?
Well, for the most part, they didn't really care whether we went mixed, believe it. They didn't care. There were a couple who they wanted to be able to have 3 separate contests, maybe 4 separate contests. They went 3 male, female, and mixed. And they wanted, I don't know whether they wanted prizes awarded, but at least they wanted to have a distinction. Then for the most part, take the best quartet, send whatever.
And ones who really didn't care didn't necessarily come at all.
Yeah,
Pretty much, they're doing their own thing. I'm correct.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to lead the
I don't think
conversation.
anybody's gonna
I just raised.
jump ship because
Sure.
we do one way or the other.
And
So
we'll
it's-
we'll talk about the prize part of it in a little bit here.
But the competitors were the ones who said they would like separate. Is that correct? That's what I
Yeah.
heard you say.
Yeah,
I believe that's what you
the
said.
non-competitors just wanted to have spring contests. They like to go, they like to visit. Okay. But they didn't necessarily want to pay. But when you talk competition,
They want the ones, the competitors were the ones who wanted to.
I just lost all audio. I just lost all audio.
So for the chorus contest, our representative will be the highest scoring chorus, period.
Highest scoring chorus that enters into the international agreement.
Right.
That is not always. I want to make.
Well, yeah, I understand.
Mike,
Yes.
ask a question. We know that they, at the international side, it's gonna be black. We want to be individual and the chapter, every chapter individual. People who are in those want to be separate. That's it. I'm wondering how they came to that decision up there if they got the people in the society involved. So that's going to give us their question.
Above our pay grade.
Yeah, I know.
So what we're trying to do is try to work within what we're gonna do.
That may be why they're saying something.
That's why we're trying to work with the members. I'm with you, I understand what you're saying. I just want to make sure. Back to your question.
I'm still flat.
Just making sure. Okay.
I think another consideration that we have to be aware of is just the level of confusion that being separate and having 3 different contests versus whatever international is doing will cause. We need to be aware of that.
Sorry, I can say we deal with that already. And the best case that we have that's been around forever is the seniors contest. We have a seniors prelim and we have a district seniors champ. More often than not, our district seniors champ is not the highest scoring seniors quartet that's up there because past champs can't compete for the championship, but they can compete to be able to qualify to go to internationals, right? And so we're already used to kind of dealing with that conundrum. I think that's there. And so that's just part of what we have to learn to communicate better sometimes from the stage.
Yeah.
So 3 points I want to add here. First of all, the QCA, they chimed in on this as well, and they were almost unanimous that they wanted 3 divisions or 3 segments, if you will. Second of all, you had asked about awards. We were already headed in the budget for last year to purchase separate awards for women's and mixed divisions. And we would still, should we decide to go that direction, would still pursue that avenue. Okay, trying to build, we would end up taking the current trophies and those would become the men's champions because that's where historically that would lie, and we'll build new traditions with the other ones. The third point that I want to make is that this is not set in stone. This doesn't have to be an in memoriam type of thing. If we just go one direction, specifically, if we were to go 3 segments, and within a couple of years, people would just go, it's just too confusing. Let's just, as you alluded, we're going to switch to 1. And we're going to, then we could certainly do that. We don't have to jump in all the way right now. Okay.
And there's just one traveling. Whoever wins that year, that's it, right?
That's something for us to decide.
We would decide that.
We may opt to have 3 traveling trophies. And you know, there's some merit to that as well.
But what Scott's saying, it's only, it can be changed down the road.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, we might end up buying some trophies that only end up getting used for 2 or 3 years. You never know. But if that's what a number of people are asking for, and specifically the QCA chimed in and said they really, really want, if we're going to go that direction, they really want the individual trophies as well. So it's going to cost us a little bit more to do that.
And just for your help, he's talking about our champions quartet for the district. They were unanimous in the decision. They just had their, what we call top gun. So that's the top guys going in to be trained by oldie guys like this guy. And it's amazing what they do. They asked them point blank, what do you want? And that was necessary for us to hear. So,
And our QCA will allow 3 champions to come into the membership.
Sure.
Yeah, they've already inducted Southern Stride.
Okay.
Yes.
As a mixed quartet.
So before they were saying we're just gonna be all male, but then as things progressed and they sang with other people, they said we're gonna, whoever's champ of whichever is gonna be included, period. So that was great. That's right.
There was a couple of things in that email that you were talking about, Scott, from Top Gun.
Yep.
Something else. I've got Mike's letter here. If
Right.
Anybody wants to see it, but a couple of really strong statements to me is, they were very much in favor of crowning men's, mixed, and women's champions separately while acknowledging an overall. Not necessarily that you have to crown an overall, but you can acknowledge that, but they really wanted to do that. And one of the things that they said is they have a desire to honor, celebrate, and recognize the mixed and women's quartet and chorus champions as equals to men. So as opposed to having separate, just one contest, they wanted to honor them each individually in terms of what was.
And the other thing, I think it was in that same letter, Mike said too, is that he wanted to be sure that if we did choose to go this direction, that we would turn around and retroactively honor Southern Stride, and who was the one that predated them, the first mix that we had? Sincerity, that's it.
2015.
Yes.
2017 and 19 were both Southern Stride.
So,
And yeah, that was very much.
Yep.
So I think it's important that we need to work on possibly the spring issue with him bringing up the points about qualifier, right?
Yeah, well, I see these as actually two separate issues.
Exactly.
I think we can close this one with, if we want to, I don't think it really matters what we do from a one contest versus two contest perspective in terms of what awards do we want to make.
right.
And so,
Right.
from my perspective, I'd like to see these as kind of two separate discussions, because I do see them as having different motivations and different, views. That's just my perspective.
Sure. So I don't think there's anybody else that we've heard from that we haven't given their feedback, have we?
I mean, I've talked to a number of people personally, shall I say,
Yeah.
along the way, and I would say a good 3/4 of them that I've talked to along the way are much more in favor of the separate awards. And there's a number of reasons for it. I mean, you look at it, as folks have said, traditionally it is men's. We want to continue to honor that and to see that, but we also enjoy the idea of having everybody share in this harmony. And one of the things that I've had, I believe I sent the photo of the presentation out, but you could do this very well or very easily when you're doing the announcements. For example, you announce your champions in score order, and you don't have to necessarily crown a champion, an overall, but you can say our highest scoring quartet and our women's champion is, okay. Now that acknowledges them as the champion in that category, and it also acknowledges that they were the highest scoring group for that contest. Okay. So I think there are ways to do that.
Yes.
It's almost like the plateaus.
To a certain degree, it's like the plateaus, things like that. If I can add one more twist to this, just a little bit, and it just plays in. I've been to a number of other districts. I was at, for example, Mid-Atlantic, or Northeast last fall, and they did men's, women's, and mixed in everything. Okay. And to be honest, it was very, I think it was confusing. That was confusing for everybody. So I think there is a good balance of where we do that. And my recommendation that I was making relative to this is to do that for our district champions. Anything that we're doing at the division level, at the novice level, and all of that, I would plateau, any of those other things, I would recommend strongly that we just interest in time. If you think about it, how long does it take to announce all of the winners on stage if you have all of that? And does it water down awards when you have so many awards that are going out, right? So I think that we can do a good balance. We can honor everybody by doing that at the district champion level, and then still maintain kind of a gender blind approach, if you will, at anything else, just to help keep everything smooth and easy. That's just.
What are other districts doing besides overall? We've just heard about Northeast, and
Well,
do we care?
Well, I will say this, that even when I was up there, Alan said, look, we don't know what we want to do, so we're doing this now. We know this isn't what we're going to stick with because it's just way too many awards. Okay, so they were already acknowledging that, but they just didn't know how they wanted to do it until they did it once to try to figure out where the paying thresholds were. So I think everybody is going to that kind of a thing. Some may be adopting and I don't know for sure the numbers. I mean, we could go get a poll. I think a lot of people don't know yet what they want to do. So I think they're probably the same, but we are trying to figure it out.
And
I think some may be leaning more towards what the society is doing, but a number of them are leaning towards this as well.
But to answer his question, I would say, no, we don't care because it's what our members want.
But has it been discussed at the district president's council level between you two?
Not much has been discussed at the district president's council whatsoever.
Not on this
And
topic.
Lonnie, were you briefed on this subject before you got here? Not expecting you to.
Not that particular subject. I mean, I just feel he expresses that, we know what our decision was at that level.
Right.
And so it's really up to you all to make the decision to serve your members. So if you feel like that is a method that you want to try it. Right?
Okay.
All this separate but equal reminds me of a period in American history in the 60s. And, when they, and I'm not going to win any friends here, I know that. But when you say everyone in harmony, well, maybe everyone, but they're separate. It just reeks of, to me, something that we went through when we tried to integrate. And believe me, this country's still struggling with that. But for me, the ultimate, if we're gonna do this, is to be gender blind. I mean, that's what it's headed to. Now, if this is an interim step for the district, like Scott was kind of alluding to, great, that's fine. If it'll bring the membership closer, maybe that's the way to do it. But personally, I think if we're saying everyone in harmony, then that's what we're ultimately going to be, because everyone in harmony to me doesn't mean separately. It means, we're gender blind. That's just my opinion.
Go ahead, Dwayne.
You doing anything different?
Okay.
Well, I would like to say something to that point, and that is that I think the majority of members that we're hearing from in our district are wanting to do 3 versus 1. I don't think they're ready to jump in with both feet, but that doesn't mean 2-3 years from now they won't be. Okay, and I think that that's a safer choice given what they want now. But I think we need to keep a finger on the pulse of this and be judging it over the next 2 to 3 years and say, do you still feel the same way, or did we fall too far behind everyone else? I think it's a safer direction to go. And as Richard alluded earlier, I'm concerned that if we jump in with both feet, we're going to alienate more people than we have the capacity to alienate right now, shall we say.
We'll get there.
Yeah, Ed?
Can I temper that with also putting our mind on the future to not only serving our current members, but serving prospective members as well?
Well, and that's been, to be honest, that's been one of the arguments that has come out of the society board. And while I get that, I also look at the economic reality of things, and that is that if we're going to keep, providing the types of services they're expecting us to provide, we can't be alienating the members that we currently have. So we have to have retention at the same time as having growth, right? And if a lot of the members that we currently have are saying one thing and we're thinking about doing something else because, in the pie in the sky in the future, we might get something here, and alienating them at the same time, I think that's a very slippery slope for us. Dwayne, you were going to.
Well, if permission, and Jim can say, heck no, kind of put you on the spot from 2 different perspectives. First one being, you probably attended a lot of different board meetings across the districts, so you may know a little bit about general feelings. And number 2, I don't know if you're an officer of the AIC or not, but are you in a position where you might share any thoughts and discussions they're having at that level? So that's kind of a two-pronged
By
question.
the way, we did have Jim sign an NDA before we had this meeting, right?
We were going to kill him at the end of the meeting.
Your arm too, so.
Oh, that
makes all the difference.
Yeah, turn off the recording.
No, yeah, being around at many different districts and lots of different board meetings and whatnot around the society, it's all the same struggle. And it depends, it's exactly the same conversations and within the different regions and the different districts, same struggle. You know, my home district, Rocky Mountain, similar process that before the pandemic, they've already gone through the process of getting, all right, we've got, it's going to be visualized, we've got trophies and all of that. So those trophies never got to get used. So those trophies are now in the hands of the next person for the district board to figure out, okay, so are we going to put different plaques on these or what is this wall going to look like? So, but so many of them, it's the exact same thing to say, whatever we decide today, we're so good at doing it the way we've always done it. And it's really hard to let go of the idea that the decision we make today doesn't necessarily have to be forever. And say, this can be the next step. And so there's a lot of this exact same conversation that I'm hearing is to say, you know, everybody want to make one decision and it's done and it's the perfect decision for everybody, which is possible. Let's say it. So that process of saying, what do our members want? The exact same discussion. And what the members want right now is the singing. So this is a priority for about this many people. Because this many people, all they want to do is, how do I keep my chapter code down? How do I get more than 7 people to show up on a good day? How do we re-engage with the community? How do we survive this? Well, what about contests? I don't care about contests. I can't even get 4 cards together to sing. So that's kind of what's going on at district level. Exact same struggle. What do we do next? We'll just kind of find our way through it. Yes, sir.
But at some point, hopefully they're going to get enough members in it that they are going to care about contests. And at that point, we have to have proactively determined what they're going to want to be able to provide them with the services they're going to want at that time.
Exactly. And if the decision is to say, here's what current active feeling is, let's do that for now. And not say, this is now set in stone for the next 7,000 years. This is something we're going to keep revisiting. Because that's actually, well, honestly, that's a much healthier way for us to go forward anyway. Because instead of saying, here are the commandments, bang, nothing shall ever change, as opposed to saying, yeah, but it doesn't always be this way. What are the needs that come up with? What is the demand? What is the changing? So yeah, it's the exact same thing. Specific, yeah. No. Sorry, go ahead. I was just saying that relative to the AIC, in the AIC, a lot of internal stuff, and I'm not going to reveal the internals of what's going on, because that's, you know, come on. Just like, hey,
No, don't tell you what's going on in there.
We don't know the secret handshake.
but you don't want to know the secret.
Yeah.
Which does make sense. The AIC leadership, talking to the membership and vice versa about all the goings on for the last 4 years. Not surprisingly, there are a lot of strong opinions within the AIC. When I say strong opinions, I mean that comes from long experience. And not every opinion is what you think it might be, and not every opinion is the opposite of what you think. And so the AIC is in process of deciding what comes next, in part because it was only relatively recently that the finalized decision about contest structure at the international preliminary level was decided upon. And the leaders of the AIC, this is all my opinion, by the way, making the right decision to not just suddenly, we have a snap decision ready to go bang, as opposed to this is a lot of change, all coming on the heels of the most traumatic, halting event in human history. And our art form has never experienced that before, just like the rest of the world. So AIC leadership doesn't want to make a snap decision about anything right now. Because they don't want to, typically when we make decisions in a moment of high emotional state, not always the best decision. So wanting to let everybody talk, they're listening to everybody's conversations, everybody's having their say, et cetera, et cetera. So it's in process right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Lee, you had a question?
Just one
Comment?
second, please, just 1 second, if I may. I wanted to make sure that Katie, she's still online.
I think she's driving and listening right now.
Okay.
No, I'm here.
Okay.
If I may, I just want to make sure we get Katie. Katie, can you talk to us about your thoughts on this, ma'am?
Katie, you're muted.
I said I have a lot of feelings about it, but I don't know if I have any decisions. There's a lot at play, and it makes me wonder, I mean, was there a member poll of every single member in the whole district, or are we going just from the division managers with a general consensus of how people feel? Not to say that it's not valid, but it's hard to put everybody into an overall decision when every chapter is feeling a little different about it. To make a big decision about what we're going to do for the next 3 years, I don't think is the right choice. I would say more maybe towards Scott's idea of let's try quote unquote separate but equal for the first time that we're back together. See how people feel about that, doing it that way for the first time, and then actually poll the entire membership, seeing how they felt about how that went, and look at the attendance, look at who we have enrolling in the contests, and then go from there.
Yep.
Thank you, Katie. Appreciate it. Go ahead.
There's one comment and sort of question with it that a lot of our chapters weren't competing for, and they have no interest in competing and never going to have it, no matter what size they get told. And it seems to me, and we've talked about this before, the thing we have to do is find a way to make the convention exciting for people who don't care about
Well,
content.
and that is a long-standing topic that we've been wrestling with for a while.
But I mean,
And
we can agonize over this, but I don't think it's the average person in our district doesn't care about the content.
And I guess
It's never
that's,
gonna happen.
the point is that there are people though who do.
Yeah.
And that's the ones that we're really serving with this conversation. And it may be a minority, but they're a vocal
Well,
minority.
More importantly, they're the ones who come to the conventions.
And put the bill.
The ones that we got the surveys from were the ones who are coming to our conventions.
I don't know, if it's more importantly, it does matter because I mean, that helps our budget and everything else. Like from that perspective, I mean, we have a lot of members. I echo what you're saying there. There's a lot of people that aren't served by this conversation, but the ones that are, I think we.
And the thing is that our district has always been one that's been growing, and we have the opportunity of bringing in more of everyone. And as we do, as Kate said, we can make adjustments just like Scott said. Okay, because if we get a hall full of everyone, won't that be wonderful? And then we can say, okay, hey, everyone, how would you like your awards? Because we're not bosses. Bosses are our district residents. So it doesn't matter what we think really, because we're going to bring this to the board anyway, to the ones who matter, and say, we had this discussion. How do you feel about it? And that's the way we will go. If they say, no, we want to go the other way, sure, okay, that's what we're going to do. But we have to make a decision. We have to draw a line, take it to them, and then they'll tell us what we're going to do. So Jack, I'm with you 100% on what you're saying. I'm on both sides. I understand both sides. But the importance is we make a decision, bring it to our bosses. Our bosses will tell us where we're going from there, right?
So Jack, I too appreciated what you said. I think it shows vision for a milestone in the future that this group may or may not decide that that's where we want to head. But from a membership perspective and what's going on with the members, you know, I think this group has a responsibility to be leaders as well. And one of the ways to do that is to say, okay, well, you know, we're looking out, you know, this is where we're headed. And then you can talk to people about, hey, we're headed this way. What do you feel about that?
What's the bottom line on this discussion? You know, are you looking for somebody to make a motion as to what we're gonna do for?
We're not there yet, but we're getting close.
We're getting very close. The most
Is this
important thing,
a delegate's decision or is this a board decision?
we vote on it and to take it to the board tomorrow.
Yes.
They're the bosses. All of us know that. So all we're doing is we're making a motion and a second. We're going to present it to our bosses. And if they say, yes, do this, then that's the direction we're going. If they say no, then we'll know exactly, okay, we're not going to do that. We're going to do what they say. We're making a recommendation to them by our motion. We're not telling them this is what we're going to do. We're asking them, is this what he wants to do? We have to make a decision and we have to go forward and bring it to it.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
Whatever the motion is, I think we need to be specific about what we're outlining. So if we're saying 3 separate contests, we also need to specify if there will be an overall champion, because I think that makes a difference to the people who are entering the contest. Because as we were doing it like on the national level, international level, there was a lot of discussion about, well, what happens if a higher score in one contest division doesn't win overall champion because they're not a man?
That's very good bring up, and I think you can help us with that. If we were to have 3 champions, okay, we would have an overall champion, okay, we could. And we could also, by score, have 3 champions going to international.
No.
As long as they're in the international qualifying contest.
So
we talk chorus?
let me.
Chorus.
Okay. Qualifying for quartets and for choruses, there are minimum scores that you have to attain to be able to get an automatic.
I'm talking about courses.
For the courses, there is a score. I believe there's a score. I'll go back.
Used to be
The rules have changed so much.
I think it's 81.
There is a score that you no matter who it is, if you sing that score and it's 81. And actually, this year I think it's lower because but normally it's 81. You sing that and you get a invitation to go to international.
But we would, if we had 3,
Doesn't matter.
if we had 3 choruses that all scored an 81, one of them is going to be the champion.
No,
But no, they don't.
No. What I'm saying is one of those would be the highest scoring of the 3 most likely, and they would be our district champion. They would qualify as the champion. The other 2 would qualify as wild cards.
True. It's a difference. So the distinctions between wild card versus not wild card.
Right.
They still get to go. So who cares?
As I said earlier, there are different contests that are going, assuming that everybody entered both the district championship and the international prelims, that would be the case. Okay. That's not always the case.
Well,
I've been in some districts where somebody entered international prelims, but opted not to do the district champion, which I always wondered why.
From a
I do
chorus
know that
perspective?
there are reasons why people will enter the district championship and not international prelims because they have plans for the summer. They don't want to do that. So there are varieties of that happen, and it's all based on a particular contest. For the prelims, it's by score. All you're doing is you're singing for a score. If you attain a target score, you get an automatic invite. If you attain the minimum score, you may get a wild card at some point in time.
Okay, so if they hit that score, then we have 3 different courses, 3 courses. They
All 3 represent the district.
There you go.
Okay.
We
The
could have
one
3
exception to the rule for choruses is if nobody attains the the automatic qualifying score, but they do get the minimum score, then the highest scoring chorus that attains that minimum score is your quartet representative, or your
Yeah.
chorus
In
representative.
other words, the district gets to send one,
Yeah, you
regard-
get to
unless
send-
they don't
as
score a
long as they get the
74.
minimum score.
Right.
Okay, and that,
Yeah,
that there are
74
districts
or
where that
something.
hasn't happened. I mean, but so there are a couple little nuances to all of that. But in general, I would say if you think about who goes to internationals, it's who says that they want to by entering the prelims, and do they get the score that allows them to do it? It has nothing to do about who has the highest score or anything else. It's do they get the score that allows them to do it? Okay. If you think about prelims that way, champions is a different thing. The championship is highest in that contest.
Right.
That's the one who wins the championship.
Right.
Okay, so and we do have that distinction, even in things we have qualifiers and we have champions.
So any of the questions from anybody on from a chorus standpoint?
If we're trying to generate a motion here, and I would be happy to go with the flow as long as it's not stone 7,000 years. You know, if we can word it such that it says we'd like to
1 year.
Yeah. move in this direction.
Keep it short. I totally agree. I didn't do 1 year. I want to have the ability to vote next year.
We'd like to try this and reevaluate.
The only concern that I have about doing it for 1 year is, will we be able to get the feedback quickly enough in a postmortem from the fall convention to be able to make the preparations necessary for next year? And this gets into the next topic, which is spring versus fall. But that's the only concern that I have about locking it for 1 year. I might say we could do it and say that we're going to try it for 2 years, and we will reevaluate at the end of the first year. And if we decide we need to change, we can adjust it in the spring HOD and in the spring board.
Yeah,
But
I could support that.
I feel
I'd
like
like to make
Wait,
that
wait,
motion.
Mike, I want to make sure. Katie, would you be agreement with that?
time frame.
I would say only 1 year. Because the thing is like, you think about potential board turnover. And if this is the board that's going to make this decision for it to be tried out the first time, we would also want to have those same people help design what's going to happen next, because everybody's been through the thick of it.
Jack Stevens been on the board for 43 years, so it doesn't.
Go ahead.
I think even if we only have the fall contest as this format, we have literally 6 months to get feedback. That's plenty of time.
Technical point of view, are we amending district bylaws, or are we amending district policy, or just exactly what are we doing?
But it's not bylaws, right, Gary?
No. Well, I'm like Jack, I want to make some enemies by saying this, but after listening to this discussion, and I applaud you guys because I think it's great, leaving it up to the House of Delegates just seems to be a huge mistake.
Well,
If the House of Delegates says, no, we don't like it, how are they going to present something else? Because they don't have the knowledge that all you guys have as to what went into making this decision in the first place.
Well, there's only one choice or the other. So if we take a vote on something tonight and we say we want 3 champions and they say no, then there's going to be 1 champion. Right? I mean, there's not any kind of middle ground here.
But that needs to be communicated though, because if they're making a vote, they need to know what happens if it doesn't pass.
I also wonder if the House of Delegates tomorrow are going to be prepared enough to speak for their chapters for this question.
Agreed.
Well, I mean, you guys have brought it up to them. They know that this is something that we're discussing. And they also understand the timeliness of it.
There is a difference between the communication style that we have right now from the district managing directors to phone calls and emails, than actually making sure that the chapter presidents are in front of their group saying, hey, here's what's coming down the pike. I need to know how you want me to vote.
For sandbagging the delegates.
making them angry and getting blamed for bad communication.
It's just, it's just a question, it's just a thought. I just want to.
Good observation.
We're very concerned about what the membership wants, but tomorrow, we're gonna ask the president. And we're gonna tell them, we want to make sure that you know what your membership wants.
Well, can you couch that in a way that says, if there's any questions about this, you have 2 weeks to reach your folks at rehearsals and whatnot, and report a decision back so that we can finalize this decision.
I don't even know if we'll have a quorum at our house.
We do because of
We
this
will.
group.
We will.
We will.
Mike?
Well, especially it's gonna be on students. Yeah.
I asked them 2 weeks before I started following. I said, talk to your chapters, send them emails. Here's what we want to know. And less than half of them talk to chapters.
Well, I mean, the answer is, we'll take into account what input we get, and we will march.
Sure.
And
Well, I mean, with all due respect, Jack, I think that's what we're doing tonight.
well, no, I mean for the chapters themselves to have. But Lee was saying, never has that even been discussed in this chapter.
Not really. It wasn't brought, I'm on board, it wasn't brought up in the board meeting. We haven't discussed it.
So there seems to be a breakdown between here and the seniors.
But I think, I mean, our job is to bring them recommendations based upon what we determine.
Yes.
We're hearing from feedback. And I think that's one of the reasons why we want to go into this saying this is not a set in stone thing. This is something we're presenting it for a year or 2 years, whatever we decide, right? Because this is the feedback that we're getting. And if you decide that that's not the case, then we may, but I don't know whether we ought to give them the opportunity to veto it this year, because because that's going to drag this thing out so far. It's going to make it difficult for us to be able to plan the fall. If we try to tell them, well, get back to us within 2 weeks, and then we're going to have to rehash this all over
No, but
again.
I mean, I think before you can go into that meeting and say you have veto power over what this board has said, what we'd like to see happen. I think that you may be talking to a group of individuals with their own opinions and not their course opinions.
Right.
And
Can I add a little bit here? I want to wear 2 hats. I'm just have my district hat on. I also need to put my chapter president. When I got that questionnaire, I took that questionnaire and gave it to the board. Okay. And that's our normal procedure. Get something like this to the board. I got feedback from probably 3 or 4 of the key players. That's all. My point is that more or less bound, I think, Thailanders to a position. The rest of the membership was not brought into it. And personally, I don't think they care. This is a leadership decision of the chapter. And that's what we took. I feel very comfortable with ours. And I would support what we're talking about. Going free for a couple of years, try it and go. And I think that's I think the chapters will support it.
And we'll find out tomorrow.
Find out.
Do we have any flexibility if at the end of the discussion tomorrow at HOD that what's the procedure on tabling a vote for a Zoom call 2 weeks after? If that's what they say, we're not prepared to make it. I mean, that would be what would have to happen. I'm not prepared for a decision today. Can you give us 2 weeks to vote? Is that a possibility?
What about the notice?
30 days or whatever.
Well, no, I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, I don't either. In fact, I'm almost feeling like I want to get a motion on the table so we can get a little bit even more specific about how those words are going to affect.
Katie, was there something else you wanted to say?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. The thing is like, I'm hearing you guys talk about how the membership is so important and the membership is who we're trying to draw to come to conventions. And then some of us are turning around and saying, well, it's a leadership decision, so we have the power to make the decision. And in my mind, that doesn't agree.
The chapter
And
leadership.
yes, for the chapter. And not everybody is going to communicate directly to the chapter. They're going to check with their board and see how the board feels, and then they're going to send a decision. And if this is something that we value all the way to every single member in our district, then we need to set the chapter presidents up for success for how to communicate and say, this is the proposal that was read at the spring meeting to the House of Delegates. I'm going to read this proposal to the membership, and we want to have feedback from the membership by 2 weeks, and we're going to take a written vote that's going to get calculated, and that's how we're going to make the decision moving forward. And then they have to know, if we say no to this decision, then what will happen? Because that will change some people's vote. I'm not mad, I'm just trying to speak clearly.
I think that's the whole reason we were trying to come up with a motion, because we don't know what the total reaction is going to be. We want to try it and let them try it, and then say, okay, how do you feel about that decision? Was it a good one? Do you want to go back? Do you want to do something different?
And I think there's a point there to be made too, and that is, it was made earlier, and that is, no matter what we decide to do, somebody's going to love it, somebody's going to hate it. Okay. And I think that we're in this position. We've been asked to serve on the board to be able to make these kinds of recommendations back to the HOD based upon everything that we're hearing. And it's not that I'm opposed to hearing their feedback. I think we've given them opportunity to provide us feedback. And I'm very, very, very concerned about saying, well, let's make a motion and then we're going to wait for them to give us more feedback. Because we all know that if we say we're going to do this within 14 days, it'll drag out to 2 months. And then all of a sudden we're in a bind because now we're having to catch up. I would much rather say, based upon the information that we have, and I hear you, Katie, but based upon the information that we have, here's our recommendation. We recommend that we go forward. If you tell us no, then we have to go back to the drawing board. But I would prefer to do that than to give them an out.
I think most chapter presidents respect this body, and they respect the decision that's made here. But someone said that we know a lot more. I think they respect it. When it comes to a vote, yeah, we have to pass it. I don't think they're going to challenge. I think they're going to
I'd be shocked if they did.
I
I really
would
would.
say, you guys have studied it, you understand it, this is what you think's best. We'll see.
And we are giving them an opportunity. If we look at it and say, this is not set in stone, if, a year from now or 2 years from now, whenever we decide, if they don't like it, they'll let us know. John, you were going to say something?
Yeah, my impression is that it will all be in the packaging of the message to the House of Delegates. And I think that you should make your motion, second it, pass it unanimously, present it to the House of Delegates. Based upon the presentation, if the House of Delegates is in line, you're done. But if there seems to be a lot of dissension, then you can put it on the table, adjourn the meeting or recess the meeting for 2 weeks for a Zoom call and do it at the end of that 2-week period and drag it on. Just get it done that way.
Any other comments before we proceed to our motion?
Yeah, my only other comment is if we highlight to them the valuability that this is not set in stone, and I agree with Katie, put it at a year, don't put it at 2 years. And then tell them our goal is to hear what your membership is saying. We want all of the feedback, whether it passes today or not. We want feedback, then we go that way. And I'll help you with that. Our feedback is if they come over.
I think you say that after the motion.
Yeah,
passes.
exactly.
I don't
Exactly.
say it
Right.
before the motion
Yeah.
passes.
Mine or this? Okay. So.
Anyone else have anything to add? Katie, did you have anything you wanted to add before we start working on a motion?
No, just pick someone who's a good writer to make the right words.
I don't think we have any of those here. Jack, you offered.
Well, I'll read.
You have something? Gary already wrote it. Attaboy.
Our hero. Well, go ahead, Gary. Rather than.
The motion, as I heard, it expressed here.
Everyone.
Through everyone's talking and saying. Okay, the motion is that the Southwestern District Board recommend to the House of Delegates that we set future convention championship awards to the men's, women's, and mixed champions for 1 year, subject to review of the House of Delegates.
So I would say for fall of 2022, rather than for 1 year, because that's really what we're talking about.
Yep.
For the fall contest of 2022.
That's it. It's very specific. Yep. And then the discussion will say we'll get feedback within 30 days of that.
District quartet and district chorus champion.
Yes, I would say. So.
Yes.
I would make it very specific. It's just with district quartet and district chorus champion.
And we also need something in there stating that we will also announce.
Overall winner.
Yes.
Announce but not award.
Well, there will be a separate award for an overall. We'll have 3 awards. We'll have a men's, a women's, and a mixed award, but there will be an overall announced.
Because international requires that.
No.
Yes.
Not at the district level.
We have to tell them which course is going to qualify.
That's
for
different
that.
contest.
That's
That's that whole other.
That's
discussion.
international freedom.
And the
The
district champion is not automatically our representative. So what we do at the district level is up to us.
They have to acknowledge that they.
But that doesn't change the fact that in this motion, we still should have an overall.
Okay.
I'm okay with it.
Well, let's
say
let's
my
focus on that.
A point a different way.
Just the announcement of an overall,
Yeah.
not an actual,
Right.
not an actual award of an overall.
Right.
Just the announcement of who scored the highest.
Not, I don't think we should even do that. I think it's a different announcement. It's the announcement of the one chorus that we are sending to international before the wildfires determine.
So that's okay. So the way that it happens.
That way, it's completely separate. If you're gonna say it's
No,
separate,
it is.
then make it separate.
It is because the way that it's announced is the A, B, and C choruses attain the qualifying score to get an invitation to international. Okay, or something of that effect. Okay, that is a different thing than our district championship course, and that is announced, by the way, because that is a different contest, and we announce the results of that contest.
Correct me on my understanding of that. We only get to send one chorus.
No.
Yeah,
Automatically.
automatically. Nothing else is determined that day because everything else is wild card.
That's changed.
That's changed.
That's
For
changed.
sure.
Yes, it's now based upon score.
But I thought that was just for this summer.
No. That's
Okay,
standard rule.
sorry, I got confused on COVID.
Yeah.
Okay, does that help us with you, sir? John?
So in the motion, it's going to specify every single specific champion as well as what kind of overall announcement.
3 champions. 3 champions.
let's see what Gary has here.
Go ahead.
That the Southwestern District Board set the fall 2022 Convention Championship Award for district chorus and district quartets. Mixed champions, subject to review by the House of Delegates.
Why do we need subject to review? Why is that in there?
Why do I have that?
Well, because we're making a recommendation.
Well, we said
No.
we said it for 2022, so it's not subject to review. Okay, so the motion is that Southwestern District Board set the fall 2022 convention contest, right?
Yes.
That the Southwestern District Board set the fall 2022 contest championship awards for district chorus and district quartets to the men's, women's, and mixed champions. And what?
And that there will be a single, and that we will announce the highest score of those 3 as the overall.
Do you need to announce that?
Yeah, why do you have to announce
Well, we've been asked to.
By whom?
Same people have been giving us the feedback of wanting the 3.
Why did they need an announcement when they can look at the damn score sheet and see points?
They don't understand the confusion thing.
They're not gonna score you, they understand.
Exactly.
The CAC
I don't think it needs to be announced. They'll know who won.
Actually, it's my responsibility. Okay. The results, the announcement of the results, now I can always defer to a admin judge, or I can, but it's my responsibility with the announcement.
So that doesn't have to go into the motion. That's something that can be done just as a matter of procedure.
Yeah, as a procedure. And as I said, my recommendation for handling that is to say the highest scoring quartet and the men's champion or something like that, as opposed to saying the overall champion. There's a fine line in there, but I think it still acknowledges that they were the highest scoring of any of the groups that were in those competitions, right? And so that would be my recommendation.
Everyone cool with that?
Katie?
Katie?
Avoiding the use of the word overall.
Scott, can you restate it? Because it kind of cut out a little bit on the changes.
Gary, can you read that one more time?
It's Mike.
Oh, Mike. Well, so the distinction is the motion is not going to say anything about what you're about to say.
Right. The motion,
Right?
the motion simply states that we're going to have quartet and chorus champions in the three categories.
Right.
And that's really the motion for 2022 fall convention, period.
Okay.
Then
And the announcement's going to be.
Set the fall 2022 contest championship award for district chorus and district quartets, men's, women's, and mixed champions.
we said for district quartets and choruses, does that have to say for the district quartet and chorus championship contest so that we don't get into, well, you said it was for districts. Why aren't we doing divisions and why aren't we doing segments? Do we need to specifically iterate that is my point?
It might be enough just to say district.
I think it's enough to say district.
Fair enough. That's all. I'm playing devil's advocate here.
You know, and I appreciate that. And because otherwise you wind up getting something, it's already kind of hard to read and understand. If you add so many other words into it, you get lost, right? But now for Katie's benefit, I've moved closer, Katie, so hopefully you can hear a little bit better.
Thank you.
My approach is to do this. We will announce the champions in score order, okay? And at the highest scoring quartet, highest scoring chorus, whichever one that, you know, whatever that is, we'd say your highest scoring quartet and your women's champion is, okay? Whatever that highest scoring one is, we would not acknowledge them as a champion in that category because that's the award we give, but we will also make the announcement that they, and make it clear on that they were the highest scoring, okay? The scoring summaries that are published already do that because now we've got a big move to have everything in rank order. Doesn't matter what, it's all by rank order. And so the top one on the list is the highest scoring. That's how we've been doing our official scoring summaries for a long time anyway. Yes.
Question. It's not necessarily the highest scoring quartet or chorus. Quartet. If they've already been a district champion, they're just trying to go.
That's a different contest. We're announcing the awards of that contest. So when we're talking, that's all we're talking about is the awards for that contest, right?
Then we announce the freelance.
Yeah, and I can say your highest scoring district quartet or your highest scoring district. Yeah, I can put that in there as opposed to a good point because they are, as you said, quartet wise, especially if we are in that all-in-one case, you got international prelim qualifiers and you have district champions, and often the highest scoring of the evening is not the one who is your champ. Okay, that again, that's a challenge that we have to, you know, and people have to get used to, which is part of the discussion we've always had here. It's very difficult, you know, and those of us who live it understand it, but it's you know, it's also, you know, those who see it once or twice a year, it's hard to understand. But we do have multiple contests, and we are talking specifically about the district chorus and the district quartet contests, and any other contest that may be out there is not covered by this.
Katie, does that answer for you?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Gary, I have an administrative question for you. Should this motion indicate that it is a motion to
change the district policy.
To change the.
I mean, context rules.
Well, that's a good point, and by classifying this for 1 year, I would almost say no. Because what we're saying with this is that we haven't necessarily made the decision that that is our policy.
Yeah, but you have amended it for 1 year.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that I have to change the document itself for that. The motion does that, right? In my mind.
That's why I asked the question.
No, I understand.
The motion could be to suspend the award manual policy for 1 year.
Good. There's a legal line right there.
You can always tell legal mind.
Thank you.
I am prepared to make those edits because I have been working on that already. So if we want to do that, I can. But if we're not, if we're not committed to it, I think it might make more sense just to say.
Suspend
this
for
is
1
what
year.
we're doing. Yeah. Thank you.
Start off with the motion with the suspension.
Too many words.
So do you want to read that one more time?
Go ahead.
Here we go. The group effort motion.
Okay. That the Southwestern District Board amend the Southwestern District Awards policy for the fall 2022 Southwestern District Contest Championship Award. District chorus, district quartets. To be men's, women's, and mixed champions. Sounds a little more.
Amend instead of suspend. We okay with that?
No, amend for the fall of 2022.
But we're not amending them, we're just suspending them for the year.
Yeah, he said.
Yeah,
We want to suspend it.
that means he's got to write it up.
Suspend for 1 year.
Suspend.
Suspenders do, they raise it up.
Ooh.
So you wanted to read that the Southwestern District Board suspend the Southwestern District Awards policy for the fall 2022 Southwestern District Contest Championship Award for district chorus and district quartets. Men's.
We can suspend it and we will award.
Yes,
a men's,
Yes,
women's,
we're
and-
suspending them, what's in the manual now, to award this, and this for the fall.
Suspend is much less permanent than amend.
Yes,
Yeah.
true. I think the 1 year thing is going to help HOD a lot. Thank you, Katie, for bringing that up.
Yeah. Aces.
What do you think of this, Charlie?
Let's see what you
If I can't hear a thing, I don't care.
Let's see what you think of this. The Southwestern District Board suspend the Southwestern District Awards policy for the fall of 2022. And instead set the Southwestern District Contest Championship Award for district chorus, district quartets. And women's mixed champions.
Second.
I would say it's decided the district board recommend.
Are we recommending or? are we
Because
approving?
we're deciding.
Because you're not,
We're deciding.
the House of Delegates is deciding. We're
No.
recommending them.
Wait a minute.
No, we decide and then they tell us yes or
The
no.
whole purpose of the board is to make decisions
Right,
when the House of Delegates can't be there to make decisions.
right.
I don't understand. So is the HOD going to approve it or not tomorrow? Is it,
No, we're gonna inform.
we're going to inform that it's done. There's no
And
voting.
the only way it'll work is if you start with the lowest denominator, which is men's, women's, and mixed.
For one.
With the understanding that there's only two other steps above that. One is an overall champion with mixed, women's, and mixed. And then there's one overall champion. And we're starting down here where we think we want to try it first, because you can't go from one overall champion back to the other way.
Yeah.
It's not going to work that way. You got to start with the base option and try it. let them know we're only trying it for 1 year. We want to see what you think of it. But we're informing you that we're doing it. We're not asking your permission.
Irrespective of the change, going back to Russ, who said this was supposed to be
It
a
depends-
recommendation.
Depends on the
to
wording.
board.
It depends on the wording. If we're suspending, which is the wording is suspend. We're suspending it and we're gonna try it. Before, the conversation was saying that we're just gonna make the change, change the rules to one.
Yeah, we're
You're
suspending this in
absolutely right.
favor of a one-year trial.
Or is HOD not the boss?
HOD is the boss if we.
So we're
were
making
to-
a recommendation.
If I may finish, if I may finish. If we were to vote and say, we're gonna make this change permanent, he's gonna change his manual, then the HOD has to say yes or no.
But we're not
But
changing policy. We're suspending.
we're suspending, the word that they, thanks to John, was we're just spending it, give it a try. So you're absolutely correct. When I was saying the one, that was if we were gonna change his manual. Say, we're changing this, okay? But when John came up and said we're going to suspend it and give it a try, that's something that they can chew on and take back to the business.
Since no policy is actually being changed, it is no longer HOD talking about.
Right, correct. And that just thanks to God.
Okay.
So that they can take
John-
it back.
It's your
So-
fault. This is.
John is because allowing, but allowing that word allows for us to try it, allows them, the president, to take it back. See how they like it and see if they come.
No, that's fine,
Okay.
but to those of us who don't know,
Right.
it's very easy to get confused whenever it was told that the motion started off as a recommendation to the HOD and then wound up as, oh, never mind, we are making a decision.
Because of the wording.
That's fine. That was good.
Yeah, we're
Thank you, Dr.
making
Confetti.
a motion on the fly here, which is something I generally oppose. Does
Especially when you
anybody
write-
remember, I generally oppose making motions on the fly?
What?
This is exactly why. However, we've arrived at a pretty decent motion.
Yeah. Mr. President, I would call the question.
Mike?
Yeah, it's just one comment to your point there. I think the board does have the right to make operational decisions. That's what we're here for. And by suspending, we moved it from a policy decision to an operational decision.
Yes.
And that's why I think it makes sense to be able to do that. As opposed to if we were just making a policy decision without getting into the lesson, that I also agree with.
I don't think we're gonna improve upon this tonight. I would say so moved. Let's vote on this. Let's get to the second one.
So it has been brought for us to make that.
Who made the motion?
I will.
No, we're good.
Anybody?
No, one more time.
Katie, you're okay?
Yes,
Thank you. All right, so all in favor, please say aye.
Was there a second?
Yes, we had a second. Mike?
My fault.
I have a question.
No, now.
No discussion. You get discussion after a
Okay,
second.
Okay. We're doing this for the spring contest. Ah, okay.
No.
So when does the House of Delegates have to work? Since we don't have. a-
This is for the fall. This is for the fall.
I'm saying, if we don't have a House of Delegates meeting, they don't get to see anything because the contest is after the House of Delegates meeting. What do you think?
We're making a decision for the awards for fall, but we're
Okay.
presenting them to them in spring so they can make that decision or understand what our decision is.
Understand.
And the point is that we're going to go back after in a postmortem after fall and say, this is what we told you we were doing in the spring. How do you feel it went? How do you feel? Because we need a postmortem so then we can prepare for 2023.
2023.
Yeah, at some point, we'll have to make a policy decision, but right now, we're just making that operational choice. And that's
Okay, any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right.
Moving right along. What's next?
Spring.
Do we need 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Let's take 5 and then we'll come back and we'll discuss the other one.
Yeah, and because it's a suspension policy.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's something.
If you were in favor, you know what? I got some. Huh? We can tell my. I don't know. It's a step in the right direction. It might not. But it's moving. So I use some of what you said. I didn't know. For sure. I think I believe in hell. No. One was. That's a lot having a heated discussion. And that wasn't really one. Well, I might be wrong. It might be that I'm pushing a rope upstream. Well, I care. We're not working today. I don't know. Well, yes or no. Somebody has to do something to set it up, yeah. I think that'd be awesome. I just asked. Well. It's where the white has ties. Remember what the other side. Friday. We obviously are not. So you go down. Oh, it won't be. Pretty at all. It's already, but that's just.
Sorry.
Yeah. Hi, Charles. Oh, okay. I told Amy, I said, yes. Watch your side, like the sausage. And what is it, a camel or a horse made by the? Yes. Yeah.
Almost 9:30, so.
I'll text you.
I just was thinking.
No, because we even sent that note. I don't think he ever says it. Yes.
Like this chapter of presidents.
I said, no, right. But I'm still.
What we want to do.
I think, but all 5 years and all that. Yeah, I think we wrote it down.
Yeah.
But it's probably
That
not
fix
this
it
one.
tomorrow?
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
United States Congress.
Okay.
Yeah, I just did it for because he was late. I started to head to the airport, he got on me. His flight was late, and then, okay, you turned and came back.
Got it.
That's my one.
That's her nickname from way long time ago, yeah. They used to call her KK in high school, but it's, yeah, that's. Yeah.
You having fun yet, Scotty?
Oh, boy. That was the easy of the two motions.
I know, that was my thought too.
That was the easier of the two. We got the easy one out of the way, and it took 90 minutes.
I got the sour all ready for you too.
Why is the next one hard? I understand what we're gonna talk about, either do or don't in spring convention.
Well, yes, that's the Reader's Digest version.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
That's the Reader's Digest version. It's a little more complicated than that. But yes.
I think we should. We should. We should have a vote. Yeah, that's the house.
Sure.
You want to go upstairs?
Let's go. It's really down here, not up there. I don't know if we should like that. But we can certainly like it. Let's get everybody in here and then we'll adjourn and we'll head up there. Is there anybody? Yo, hello.
Yeah.
Is there anybody that you were sitting next to who is not back in the room? I can't ask who's not here, so it's.
Somebody volunteers. Let's sing a song.
B flat.
Jack. Yep, close enough.
So Jack is the only one that's not back.
We're singing, and I'm sure he'll be okay with that.
Our way.
Down our way, both night and day. You know everybody and they all know you. And even policemen say, how do you do? Gals by the score and gals galore, and the whole gang of mine, they say sweet Caroline, down our way, down our
Date sign.
Hey, John, we have an offer for the group. There's a room upstairs, 625. It is cold as everything. And we could go up there and finish our meeting up there. If everyone would like to go to a nice cooler spot.
The meeting might be shorter, but it's still hot.
Exactly right.
But there's libations and chips.
Yeah, that's your call.
Well, let's go up there and cool off, but let's hold off on the libations until we're done.
Do we want to set all this stuff up there?
I'm gonna leave this open
Okay,
and Katie, I mean,
so Katie can be.
yeah, so
I'm
Katie,
here.
and I'll reconnect with my phone. So if you want to kill it on your end, that's fine.
Yeah, just same link and I'll just
Just
on and
stay
10.
online. I'm not gonna disconnect. We're just gonna go upstairs because it's like 90 degrees in here.
Got it.
We're gonna go upstairs.
That's not the room we're supposed to use for tag zone, is it?
I have no idea.
What's the name of that room?
Is this the room we're using for the tag zone?
No.
You're using a different one.
Good. Okay, thank you.
which is in the corner back behind the elevator.
Okay.
Problem when you find
It's a lot cooler.
Okay.
That's where the House of Delegates is in the morning.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Where we going to Russell's?
Office and room, which is behind the elevator.
625.
625?
You need help there, Mark?
The House of Delegates and the taxi.
That's the part that I missed.
Huh?
I'm gonna
No, I
go to
missed
this on
something.
the spring convention.
It's not the first time.
Right.
Which is
You
interesting.
didn't have to rub that in there.
Why is that?
Only as a
Because you were the one who pushed
That's
for it.
how I-
5
Oh, no, I
years
never
ago.
did. I wanted to kill spring conventions 3 years ago. I killed them and somebody else brought them back. We killed them for a year, if you remember.
Yeah, I do remember.
That was me. I killed it. So it wasn't me. I want spring to be turned into something more fun where you have a brigade weekend when it moves around.
but
and
there
you
is
help a chapter grow.
I mean,
And every.
there is a problem with doing it.
With the contests, right?
That's right.
Well, we qualify in the fall or they go to a different district. 625.
So
Come up?
save those.
No, right now. We're gonna continue discussion. We'll be talking about whether to have a spring convention.
Just hold that breath and make that argument when we get there. How are you, Lonnie?
How are you?
We didn't get a chance to connect before, but if there's anything you need while you're here, or even lunch or anything, help me
Oh,
out.
no, I appreciate it. Yeah, I've got all kinds of offers, so
Good.
we'll see.
Good. You flying today?
Yeah, really early.
So you got in before all the storms?
Just barely.
Yeah.
Flew around.
Did you have to connect anywhere? Or did you?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, so you did have to fly around them. It was pretty nasty. The guy said, some of the guys that came down, they said that it was a 4-hour drive to get to Dallas away from the storm in 90 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it was bad, like tornado warnings and stuff like that down the way.
Yeah. But, and the next, I mean, this is the time of year when we should be getting rain like that. The next 12 days, where I live in Austin, we're not supposed to be below 97 for the next 12 days. Yeah, it's supposed to be 102 on Saturday.
Is it
and
normal
90
for you?
This is early. It's normal for here in July. But for May, I mean, I'm not totally complaining because I don't have a heater in my pool, so now I'll be able to start swimming within, a couple more days. But frankly, I don't know if I want to have 97, 99, 101 degrees.
Yeah.
Just to be able to get my butt in the pool, Squeeze some more in there?
Come on in. But we had tennis ball size tails.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
Who's that?
Huh?
Where?
In that room.
Really? My in-laws didn't send me one of that.
Well, it kind of skirted
Did they?
the west
What part of
side.
town are you in?
You do know where Amarillo is? I'm in Amarillo High.
Yeah, I know where it is.
I live 4 houses from Amarillo High.
Okay, so my mother-in-law lives in Wolfton,
Well, okay.
and my father-in-law lives in Canton.
Okay.
So we're up there 5 times a year.
Yeah, my kids live in Canyon too. Y'all go ahead.
Where are we going? 625.
Right around the corner.
Yes, it's right here.
Hey, how are you?
Doing well, Barbie. How are you?
Good, Scott. Your hands are full.
Hello. I'll hold the door for you. Sure.
How you doing? I'm gonna call dibs on putting my rollator over there by that AC.
Yeah. I'm just looking for power.
One right here. You need to, you want to pass it under and I'll plug it in?
No, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this tripod back over here.
Gotcha.
Put my phone into that.
No, that works.
Because my phone is.
And I plugged in all, put the whole drive down, so mine is,
Save that table for all you.
Well,
big-
because I was ready to the guy, but then the audio and everything, he died about halfway through the session. So,
Excuse me, sir.
No.
There you go.
Those are good looking shoes. I found some that had a casual like that, and had a crocodile pattern on them. But I wear it with, they don't make up. That's right.
I hear you.
It's like, oh, that's just great. We extra white guys are hard on shoes. I suspect that's the reason.
Take a seat.
Sorry. Lights or no lights?
Just can't lay it right there.
There you have it. God said, let there be light. Can you do my turn?
Strap it.
Somebody can actually use it.
All right.
Would you like to be at the table? We can move the chair. All right.
Switch back and forth.
Until it turns the fan on. Looks like it is. Yeah. But you have to be outside light. But no. Yeah, it's probably been. It's pulled too many times, shall we say. Yeah. No, it doesn't move. It does not move. Yeah, it's dark as it is. Stay bright. Oh, I should have known better. That was a softball. Yeah.
We're just waiting for the Zoom.
Y'all want to drink while you're waiting?
I think I've got enough power to.
Everybody know Barbara?
So I'm just going to put this right here in the middle, so that way it's from a microphone perspective. And then I'll.
Great.
Everyone, please speak up so Charlie can hear.
Glad to.
No.
And others.
Yes, yeah. So I hate to say this, but I'm going to. That hour-long discussion that we just had was probably the easier of the two motions we discussed tonight. So let's try to stay focused on the issue at hand and realize what we're going after here and try to find the best solution that we possibly can for tonight. The second issue that we're facing is determining 2023 as far as conventions are concerned, and whether we are going to move forward with a single fall convention or with a fall and a spring as we are currently doing. Now, I don't want to preface things too much, but I will say we all know the economics. We discussed them earlier tonight in Dwayne's report. We know that we're losing money considerably on the spring convention. We had 275 seats to sell and we only sold 170 somehow. Okay, so we only sold about 2/3 of what we needed to sell, even with tantalizing a number of courses with coaching and things like that to try to pick up some seats. So we know the economic reality of the situation. Prudence would probably dictate from a financial standpoint that we nix the spring competition, to the spring convention, and simply move forward with the single fall convention. But there are issues with that. Mike, you're probably the biggest opponent of these, so I'm gonna let you take it from here and just and speak as to why you feel that that is short-sighted.
Well, to make a decision based on the first year after coming out of the pandemic, when nobody is really running well, I think is being too quick to make a judgment. One of the things that happens anytime that you get into a situation like this, where we've been out for 2 or 3 years, people find other things to do. There's always that's just going to happen, and we somewhat lost relevance to a lot of the members that are out there because of the pandemic. They couldn't do things. Barbershop isn't as relevant as it used to be for them. And to me, the big issue here is, I understand the budget concerns and things, but
when you're in a crunch like that, doesn't seem like the right time to be cutting services. When what we really need to be doing is trying to get services to the folks that want it when they want it. And I think the decisions that we've been making so far, if I went back to look at some of the things, and I've got a presentation, I'm just going to walk through different pieces. The way we got to a single contest was in part, a big part, from what I could see, was cost driven. Okay, we wanted to go to that because courses didn't want to spend money to go twice and everything else. We didn't look at what services did they want. They just said, or anybody else wanted. It was more a matter of they don't want to have to do that. So we said, okay, we won't. Okay, we did that for a few years. We got back to the 2 convention model because we were having some issues. We were running out of time. We couldn't do things there. We were going to have to get quadruple panels because of what we were trying to do. It was getting to be too cumbersome with all the contests in the single contest. Again, not what services we're really wanting. It's all driven by the admin, if you will, and other things. I really feel now, and I feel strongly that we need to change our mindset somewhat and focus on the services. We got to keep a view on the finances. I get it. Okay, I'm not saying that we can turn a blind eye to that totally.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, no, but for at least for a couple of years or so, we're coming out of this strangest situation that we've ever seen. Right? We courses haven't been able to meet for 2 years. How do you expect anybody to even come here? It's great that we got 5 to come because they're trying to get back on their feet again. But I think the lesson that I learned from this is we can provide services that people want, and it doesn't turn overnight. I didn't expect that we would get a full house. Even if we had the right thing here, we probably wouldn't get a full house, right? That's where we are today because of the pandemic. But if we want our membership to grow, if we want chapters and quartets to see value, we got to be able to offer things to them that they want.
So Mike, let's talk specifically about if we were to go to a fall model only.
Yep.
What sort of services to which you're touting would we be lose? What are the drawbacks from the services perspective we would lose by going to a single fall model?
Have a lot of ideas.
Yeah, there's a number of things that I think we have an opportunity. Okay, so face it, I even went back and looked. What we're supposed to be offering is both singing opportunities and fellowships. How do you do that if you're not meeting? That fellowship is about that. We got to get people to see that. Okay, but hang on, I'll get to what you're asking about. But services mean more to me than just contest. And yes, I represent contest and judging. All right, I understand that. But I have I'm sure my view is tainted towards that a little bit. But in particular for quartets, I think we're putting them at a disadvantage to a certain degree in that case, because, and Jim, you can tell me whether I'm right or wrong, but I've talked to a few of the other, at least international quartet type of quartets. They're ramping up to go up. Having this spring contest gives them ability to take lessons that they've learned from the last internationals, get coaching, get new songs, do everything else, and then they put them in front of judges and allow them the opportunity to get that feedback before and earn their chance to go to the big show. All right. For us as members, we get to partake in that, right? We get these high caliber guys who have been shining up their performances. We get them in front of us. We get to really hear what they're doing, and we get to see that, and that builds excitement for everybody else. All right. If we have it in the fall, they don't have yet. They just finished that. They're taking the summer break, and then they're trying to get back on their feet again. And they really don't have a chance to change anything that's been going on. And all the work that they've done for the rest of the year, they don't get an opportunity to get in front of a judge unless they go to a different district. And which, by the way, the current rules now make it very easy to do that. okay? I can't stress that enough. They don't have to come to me now to ask to go to another district. All they have to do is say, hey, Dixie, do you have a spot for me? And if they say yes, they're in Dixie. All right. So I think what we will see, and this is my opinion, and I've kind of talked to a few of the other the quartets in particular, to say what works for you. And none of them have said, well, we won't go to Southwestern District, but I still think we're going to start seeing that, because the guys in Louisiana, I mean, Showcase, they said it was closer for them to go to Carolinas than it was to come to San Antonio. All right, that's reality. Okay, they're going to start looking for that, and if we say we're doing it in the fall only, and they're saying, well, we're not going to be ready, then they're going to be looking for those opportunities.
So theoretically, your concern is about them polishing and honing and getting in front of a judge to prepare for international as much as the qualification aspect of it. They could still do their international set from the previous year to qualify in the fall, but you're concerned about giving them an opportunity to be able to improve and hone and get in front of the judges and that type of thing in the spring. Am I hearing that correctly?
They get 2 shots.
Right.
Every group gets 2 shots. If I've got 2 bullets in my gun, am I going to shoot one in the fall thinking that, okay, I'll try to qualify, and if I don't, now I've only got 1 shot in the spring after getting all my coaching to get better. Okay. And the other piece is that, after the summer, groups decide, maybe we don't want to have this same group. We want to bring somebody else in. I'm not ready to put that in front of a stage yet in September. Okay, I've just got some new members in. I want to really see what we can do. We're getting things hopping, and it's just not giving them the opportunity to do what they need to do.
So this is going to be an impossible question for you to answer, but I'd like you to try.
Sure.
Okay. On average, how many quartets are we talking about? Do you think this affects on a yearly basis?
I can tell you right now that we have 11 quartets that are at this contest that are international freelance.
Okay.
Okay, and I think that's a low number for a normal year. Normal years, we've been having anywhere between, I think, around 18 or so quartets that are in the spring. All right, I think that number could be bigger. Here's the other thing that I think Katie would maybe jump on here. We have an opportunity here to do more of a festival thing with it or something else. We got to look at the cost. Is there a way that we can control the cost more? I did a little bit of looking, like at Frisco High School, for example, just because I could get numbers from there, right? And it's like 107 for nonprofits, it's $170 an hour or something for the auditorium. And by the time you add up the rooms and everything else, it's going to be somewhere, I'll say $7K.
But 2 programs, that's not the biggest cost, right? The biggest cost is going to be a double judging panel.
No, I understand. We still got to have a double judging panel if we're going to bring that. And so, but we can control some of those costs by making sure that the venue cost is shared down and cut down as much as we can.
Sure, but even if we have a festival in the spring, no matter what, the thing is, if it's going to be a qualifier, we know right from the outset that that's going to add
We have
an additional $7,500 for a judging panel.
Yeah.
Is that a rough ballpark?
It's good rough ballpark.
Okay. And are there any other expenses beyond the judge's expenses that we would face by having a qualifier in the spring, no matter what else we did in the spring?
I mean, other than the venue and I mean the normal things, if you're going to have something, right?
All things being considered, if we had a festival and we
Right.
said, oh, we're also going to have a qualifier here, that immediately adds $7,500.
Correct.
Okay, no, not more than that.
A quick question, Mike. So do we have to have something in the spring that qualifies quartets for international for the following summer?
Is that
No, it's not a requirement. Okay.
Because you can use the fall?
Yeah, we could do, we have in the past, we had the single contest and we could do the qualifier. I mean, the big difference there was, as I said, the rules have changed some. So quartets had to go to their home district or at least get permission to go away. And then the other exception there is, of course, there's a lot of groups that don't form until later in the fall or in the spring. And they're going to be looking for someplace to go. Okay. Remember, there's opportunity here. I think we're missing some opportunity. We continue. I went back and looked at what was our I have to fire this thing back
While you're
up.
looking that up, Mike, I want
Yeah.
to bring up one point.
Go
and
ahead,
that is
please do.
that- And this is counter to your argument. I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, I also look at it like we're saying we're going to spend an extra $7,500
Mhm.
to accommodate 50 to 70 members. Right? If you're talking
With-
about 11 to 18 quartets,
Okay.
we're talking about 50 to 70 members roughly, right?
But
Is that, my question is that
Yes.
being prudent with funds by doing it when they could qualify in the fall?
I'll pose it another way. That $7,500 is bringing Kevin Keller and a number of other great judges here that we can use inside our district for this weekend. All right, we don't always have that opportunity. This weekend, we have 6 judges that are already certified. We have another 6 judges that are coming here to practice. And we have them to be able to take advantage of for the coaching that they get, not only as the coaching after their competition, which is part of the evals, but that's what we're doing with the festival. We're taking those judges and we're taking 2 to 3 hours of their time to invest that in our courses here in the district.
And that was one thing that we didn't think was possible, was the thing that we're doing with courses. And that came from the chapters. They said, we want to talk to somebody and get better. And thanks to the folks that were able to pull that together, right? It was something that we didn't even have an idea that was possible.
Well, I'll counter that a little bit. It's always been possible because we do evals.
No. We hadn't brought it up before.
Well, we didn't bring it up.
3 hours of coaching.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
what we didn't bring up before was the thought of, let's do a festival where there's no contest, there's no pressure, all right? All we're doing is saying, put something up on the stage, and for that, and you come, pay your registration, put something up on the stage so that you give you guys something to focus on, something to be able to work on. And when you come here for that, we will give you the coaching that's there, and we will give you extended coaching. I think they've always gotten an hour or something anyway, because that's what we do for the evals. I mean, that's a service that contest and judging is not just judging, right? It's also the coaching and everything that comes with it. And that's a service that we do to our chapters and to our districts. And yeah, we're paying for that service when we pay for them to come here, but they're giving their time and their hearts to be able to do this. And there's a huge value that comes from that we lump under contest. When the big value in my mind is look at what they do after the contest. You have 10 minutes on stage, all right? You got 40 minutes to an hour with a coach that has been certified and knows what they're talking about and knows how to be able to help get you better, okay? How much is that time worth? And that to me is what we're really getting for that $7,500.
And so I want to go back to the very beginning of what Mike was talking about and say, let's flip the paradigm back on its head and go back to referring to this as a convention or a festival rather than a contest. You want to dilute the amount of cost per member that it costs, then let's do things besides the contest that drive value to more than 75 to 80 members of.
Absolutely agree in this case, for all of our conventions, but that's really not the topic we're discussing here. The topic we're discussing specifically here is whether or not we can afford or should spend the money to have a spring contest.
No.
I think you can't have that discussion and not include other ideas to make it more appropriate for a general larger part of the membership.
And that's the thing we had planned on doing last fall. It's the thing we plan to do this particular spring. But I don't necessarily think that that is germane to whether we have a single convention or a double convention. We still want to do those extra things to make it fun and to bring in the ones who don't care about the contest part. I think the question that really is important here is, are we going to spend the money to have a spring contest?
I want to ask a question about that because back in, what was it, 2013 or whenever, when the decision was to go to a single convention. Okay, what was one of the conditions of going to a single convention back in 2013? What else was supposed to happen?
To have the
Festival or something.
Division.
How
divisions was supposed to step up
many
away.
spring festivals and everything happened? Okay.
But isn't that the chapter's
contest
voting?
is a great thing to help give us a venue and a reason. Okay, there's a reason there, and it's something that we set up. Okay, and you know, we need to be dedicated to something there, and we're putting dollars in here. We want that to be successful.
So I guess where I'm going with this is that a lot of the members of the survey that the DMVs did, we asked them, would you prefer to have a single fall or still continue to do the two? And DMVs speak up for me, but I believe pretty much all of them were like, we only want to drive once, which is a lot of what started driving us in this particular direction. There's one argument that I'm hearing to that is that we're not providing the services that the quartets demand by having a fall only contest.
But some of that was because, from my understanding, that you required people to qualify. And the smaller choruses were the ones who had to qualify, and they're the ones who it was costing them more money to travel twice a year. So if we're not going to have,
the reason why we did that was to try to get choruses to come to the spring so we could put butts in the seats.
So don't make it all about contests.
Well, thank you.
That's not, that is agreed. In every convention, we should not make it all about contests. We talked about that ad nauseum. We're still looking for ideas, but that doesn't solve our problem tonight.
I have a question about the cost. So does it change the cost when we would have only a international quartet qualifying contest versus having a quartet and a chorus qualifying contest?
No. Two double panels still has to show up. Unless we figure out how to quartet can do 4 songs in one day and it's a Saturday only competition.
Well, they're doing that, by the way, in Far Western District this year. They're having they have a quartet festival, international prelims, chorus festival, all on Saturday.
I second it.
There's no show. Okay, I mean that something has to give on that weekend, and there's really no time for anything else in that case. But it can be done.
I'd like to bring up what they went through in Rocky Mountain, right?
Sure.
Last weekend.
Yeah, so a couple weeks ago, Rocky Mountain had our Rocky Mountain Harmony College. I think it's the same year or maybe 2 years before Southwestern went to the single contest model. Rocky Mountain went to the single contest model. Couple of things before we get into that relative to back to the question of what do you gain, what do you lose? I can tell you the experience of all the times that I competed, if we had gone to a fall only model, it would have been devastating because of all the work you put in. You're not ready to go in the fall. So unless you are part of a chapter that's also competing in the fall, there's far less motivation for you to go in the fall. Now, is that a lot of people? Maybe not. You're saying how many competitors?
We've got 11 quartets this year.
Okay. Yeah. How many of them bring family?
None.
Yeah.
Is that absolutely true or not? Again, I'm just asking the question because that's kind of the thing, is to say if they have no motivation to bring anybody else. So again, in terms of how many people attend or not, I can tell you that in my quartet's case, if we weren't going, nobody from the family was going, and that was like 30 people. So that's a lot of registrations for a district. So, you know, figuring that out. The reason that you keep coming back to the contest aspect of it is that the competitors, they are the anchor because they've been the anchor for 80 years. The competitors are crazy. We will go anywhere we have to go in order to compete. So I can tell you, as a competitor for all those years, I felt abused way more often than I felt appreciated as a competitor, because the district got to choose to do whatever they wanted to do with us, and we just had to put up with it. Because if I wanted to go to international, if I wanted to try to compete, I had to go where they said, when they said, and I may have been hacked, but I went, because by gosh, that's what you do. Now, how many is that? Again, you got to balance the numbers. Rocky Mountain, again, coming out of this, Rocky Mountain's been doing the spring, took the old HEP school, turned it into Rocky Mountain Harmony College, the same spring weekend in April. that prelims used to be. This past couple weeks ago, Rocky Mountain Harmony College, again, it was supposed to be a Friday night, all day Saturday event of teaching and classes and coaching and voice lessons and all that kind of stuff. Because the pandemic, and again, C&J, all those conversations about similar to here, we need you to have a prelims. They did it as an invite only, ended up inviting 6 quartets. 4 of them were from Rocky Mountain, 2 ended up being from out of district, and 1 chorus. And the competition was all on Friday night. So it was 2 rounds Friday night. Then again, the panel was on staff as faculty for the entire next day. Now, looking ahead, they're saying, okay, so what if we have twice as many quartets next year, whatever, when do we start? Well, maybe we just start earlier in the day on Friday, because again, the competitors are crazy. They'll come in half a day early. If they got to compete at noon on Friday, they'll come in and compete at noon on Friday, because again, we're crazy as competitors. But the coolest part about it was kind of what's going on with the festival idea here is to say those competitors had their 2 rounds, they had their scores, and then the next day, they got to spend all day coaching with the panel that had just judged them, so that it wasn't just 20 minutes and then you go to international and say, well, they said, well, they didn't have enough time. So the usage of the funds was to say, again, not just bring them in for the contest, which adds all that expense because it is ridiculously expensive, but then utilizing their expertise. And so in Rocky Mountain, they were hoping to get 90-ish registrations. They were going to be thrilled with 100. We had about 160 people come to Rocky Mountain Harmony College. What I noticed through that whole weekend is that people were just excited to be back.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, you don't want to lose dollars and you don't want to try something just to try something. On the other hand, there's kind of a strike while the iron is hot. People want to get involved. But really, again, every district, it's a different thing. Texas is not small.
Right.
So again, it's closer from Louisiana to go that way, right? It's closer to drive from Atlanta to Dallas than Dallas to El Paso. You know, I understand. It's I grew up in the West. It's big out here. Yeah. But trying to find ways to say, how is this going to be beneficial going back to what we've all talked about for decades, which is what do the members want out of this? And, you know, talking about the other options for convention, what else can we do? And I know, again, Rocky Mountain plans for this fall, which can be applied to wherever, is saying there was a platoon, not a brigade, but a platoon option for the spring. There's going to be that again in the fall. There's the official, you know, here's going to be the polecat room. Here's the tag corner where there's going to be official people at different times through the convention. Okay, you want to learn tags from, you know, so-and-so, Darren Drown or Sean Mondragon or whomever. They're going to be there at this time and this time and this time. So you set up a framework of things that may be, and oh, by the way, absolutely putting in over and over again, here are the times when we all sing. Not just here's the mass singer, we're going to do that, but like the opening session of the convention that precedes the contest starts at this moment. 40 minutes before that is when it starts, and it's welcome back, B flat. We all start singing. Then we sing this one, we sing that one. We get everybody singing so the observers don't say, I just paid $150 for the registrations and this much in gas and all this kind of stuff to come sit for 2 days or 3 days. But instead, they're involved. So there's, especially coming out of the pandemic, all of the information we had before means absolutely zip, because there is no more the behavioral habits of the last 80 years are zilch, because right now everybody across the entire world is taking stock and reassessing all their priorities to try to figure out, okay, where do I go now? And whether that's work or family or where I live or all of this that, you know, this art form, this is so passionate, I have to do it, but it's still all the way down here on my priority list because everything else is here. So it's going to take time to try to hash through it. Now, a district, a chapter, a whomever can't spend money willy-nilly to just say, we just got to keep trying stuff until they come back. But at the same time, again, our experience in Rocky Mountain was successful enough a couple of weeks ago that the leadership was talking about do we go ahead and have another prelims next year in the spring as well? So that that's there. The other thing is, because it's so easy to hop districts now, is that especially like this is what, second to last weekend of
Well,
prelim
normally we're
opportunities?
the last weekend.
Correct.
Yeah.
So is that an opportunity to market for 6 months to a year ahead of time for all of those quartets to say, need another shot? Not happy with your score? Come on out to Southwestern. We're here. We're happy to host you. Come to the District of Champions. It's going to be great. So there's opportunities to leverage what you have to potentially bring in more people. And how much fun is it if you can come up with creative ways to make out of district quartet competitors feel welcome? Get a few more here, a few more there. But again, it's going to be a trickling thing that we all hate. It's not, in my estimation, it's not going to be something where we suddenly go, bam, we're back to 700 people. It's going to be a dozen here and a half dozen here and a couple dozen more here. It's going to take time. It's going to take time. But
On that point, I'll remind you that for 2 years in a row, we had Signature come here to be able to qualify, even when they had to go and get permission to be able to do that. Okay. If you're bringing in an international champion quartet to entertain, you know, that's going to be a few $1,000s in and of itself just to get that in front of the state. Okay. I mean, there's a value that this brings.
Now, how many do we have that are out of district that are?
One this year. Entourage.
That's-
Yeah. That's right.
That is something that we can't necessarily count on. We
No,
don't
no,
reap the
no.
benefits from it. We can't necessarily count on it. It's
No,
real
I have to think in terms of investing in the future,
Yeah.
for the future, because we can't get people to come back if there's nothing for them to come back to.
Absolutely, absolutely. Real quick, Mark, you had your hand up a while back.
Yeah, when I was talking, kind of moved on to the point, but one part of the reason that we ran into some issues when we went to fall convention was because we were requiring all of these chapters, as Katie alluded to come to the spring contest in order to qualify for the district contest. And when you do that, I mean, not only are the chapters out money, all these individuals are out $500, $600, $700, $800 a piece to come to a division contest to qualify for a contest that how many times did we not qualify for somebody in the contest? I kind of wrote the original treatise about doing away with the spring convention, but that's kind of where I was coming from on that, is making sure we're not penalizing our members, even individually, by forcing them to come to a convention in order to go to the district contest. And we can come up with ways, and I'm very interested in Peter, what Melton did, ways to fund the spring convention without imposing that requirement on our members.
well, one of the other, I was going to say, and I'm glad you brought that up because I kind of forgot. So one of the other things Rocky Mountain's talked about for years, again, pandemic put that on hold, is to say, and again, post-pandemic, everything's different, but was the idea of having a small chorus festival in the springtime. Fall could be the big choruses or anybody who wants to try to qualify. But again, for most of our choruses, they know they're not going to qualify for international, and that's not why they want to go. So is there a way to make those small chapters, those small choruses feel extra special by saying, springtime is yours. This is your convention, and we are going to celebrate you. And we're going to have a champion of whatever, you know, you shake all that out, but that they get that opportunity to say, this is the one that we have to go to. It's not compulsory to go to that one to get to this one. So now we get to go and be with our others who are, you know, 10 to 20 or whatever you pick the numbers to be for what that is on stage.
So when we did that, that was Baton Rouge, we did that, right? Is that the only
And
one?
all through the
No, actually,
80s and
the
90s.
first one was Fort Worth.
Let's just count that.
The first one was Fort Worth.
I mean, we've done that a couple times, right? In the past
With the
10
prelim?
years. You know, in the
Yeah.
past 10 years, we've had a small chorus competition in the past 10 years.
Oh, I don't know.
2 times maybe? Have we ever had more than 3 choruses show up for that?
No.
Well, that's because our large courses are small courses now.
Right.
Well, yeah, but I guess my point is that it's a valid thing to try, but we tried it and it obviously doesn't resonate.
Well, and the question is, would it resonate now? Because that's the problem, is to say, there's gonna be a certain amount of gamble now.
Yeah.
Because again, the behavioral model of the last X number of years, decades is turned on its head because we don't know. So again, that communication aspect from the managers, the district presidents, the finding out, listen, if we were able to do this, and is that small course festival now also a situation where if there's a prelims and they get coaching and they can be involved, maybe it's not a contest thing, it's something else. I mean, there's 7,500 different ways to skin this cat. So what is it that's gonna be of interest to them? And again, if it comes down to a point where there's just not enough interest, aside from those 7 diehard quartets, and 1 of prelims, well, it's, you know, we can't afford it unless you're gonna pay $1,000 a piece for registration.
One of the concerns that I think that we've been facing is that we've kind of got to the point where we're offering has been an either or situation. Right. Come to the fall, or you're coming to the spring. But we're trying to get them to come to both. Sure. If we're going to do two, right? Sure. And I don't know how we can win the league.
I just wanted to add a perspective of one of the small chapters that was hit by that decision. Plano flat out didn't go to Baton Rouge and said, we're not going to the fall either, because if we're not good enough, you don't want us at your fall convention, you're going to make us go qualify and pay all that money, we're done. We won't go to, I was able to change that mentality in that chapter, but it took a lot of doing. And it wasn't only, it partly only happened because people left. And there were a lot of chapters that were saying the exact same thing. You don't want us? Fine, we won't be there in the fall. Or don't ask, because you're not doing what we want to see. And we hear a lot of lip service to make it more of a convention. But then you just see everything, every message that comes out from the district is about the contest. Yep. Every single one. And so I'm just saying, there's a lot of
I
energy
dispute that
still
because
there.
I was in on a lot of the stuff that Rocky and I put together last year, trying to talk about all the other things that we were doing. I just don't know if those things will resonate.
Well, and again, perception is everything.
Yeah.
We got 8+ decades of being contest centric. There's nothing wrong with that. The biggest challenge is saying we all want it to be more than just a contest. But I guarantee you, my 140 conventions I've been to in my life, nobody knows what that means. I don't want to go to contest. I want to go to a convention. Great. What do you want? They don't know.
Yeah, they can't answer that question. We've asked it 100 times.
Which is why it's such a challenge to say, you got to experiment with, so what are the things, and again, we barbershoppers, we like to experiment once. Well, that didn't work. Try something else.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's not how it works. You got to do it more than once, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 times in a row. So again, that idea, and I will tell you, probably one of the most successful, this is 2018, again, pre-pandemic. My chapter in Colorado Springs hosted the convention, and we just voluntarily in the springtime started doing something that had never been done before in our district. Just started putting out little snippet videos to say, you got to come to the convention. Hey, did you know this is going on? Hey, you got to come down here, just these things. And I was doing most of them just because, you know, it's driving me crazy. I've grown up in that district. And starting to hit the district membership with these things and then organizing it such that, you know, it's at the foot of Pikes Peak. So our mass sing was America the Beautiful. And it was at the end of the chorus contest. And we practiced while the tabulation was going on in the hall. So you could hear it in the hall. And then when all that announcement is over, we went right out onto the lawn and there's Pikes Peak in the background. And we're singing America the Beautiful at the foot of America's Mountain. You know, everybody loved it. You don't have that opportunity every time.
Let's go to D terminal.
So
the opportunities are there to try to find, because the only universal thing that all the barbershoppers love to do is sing. So how do we get them involved so that they're not just paying through the nose, thank you gas prices and everything else. It's mostly in their heads. Why is this worth anything to me? Well, what do you want to do? You want to go sing? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then how do we basically have to take what they've always loved for all these decades and put a new face on it to say, what do you want to do? Hey, this is how we're going to provide you the opportunity to sing. The only way you get a chance to sing, you got to come sing. So come sing.
When we asked, wait a minute, just one second, when we asked our courses, what was it? because I was being hit, the ones that I was calling on, it's money, it's money, it's money. I said, what would get you here? Well, you get coaching. So I called the people, no mention was made of money from that moment. Once we asked them and we said yes, because people said yes, we could do it. Bam, there was no further talk about money whatsoever.
The other huge recommendation I would throw out there for all the leadership is that at the end of this weekend, no matter what the decision is about a year from now, that you just absolutely saturate the membership with how much fun this weekend was.
Yeah.
And try to get everybody, and if you don't have somebody, I don't know if you have somebody taking pictures and snippets and
Yep.
videos this.
Yes.
Awesome.
We're doing a delayed webcast.
Which is great, but to be able to not say, look at what you missed, but just get them excited
Yeah.
about this was great and look at everything that happened and this is fantastic and we're so glad and can't wait to see you in the fall. I could give them a reason to say, well, that's right, it'd be great to get back together and say.
My most memorable experience in terms of some of this was internationals at Denver. There were two things that happened at internationals at Denver, and Sean Mondragon and they got some quartets together and they had a tag in contest. They said, here's 3 songs, come in, tag in, get a card. At the end of the day, we'll draw a card for an award, or you can win some prize or something at the end of that. It was a blast. Okay, I went in, I learned all of my songs. I went in, I tagged in, I talked to the guys, and I had a ball. Okay, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about that part of it. Okay,
Did you win any?
No, I didn't. I'm not even sure I got them all stamped, to be honest with you, but I had a ball doing that, right? Because I was singing, right? That's what we go for. We don't go to sit there and listen. We go to sing, right? And then the second thing that happened was before one of the sessions, like usual, everybody joins in the hall and everything, right? So we're sitting there and 4 of us are singing, and we notice, like usual, somebody starts singing, people's come around, right? Well, instead of the usual, don't fifth wheel, we were doing this. Okay, we had 50 guys around us singing songs, and the only thing that we said before, when the contest started, is like, oh crap, we got to go and do this. Let's do this again. Okay, that's what got me excited, and that's why I go to internationals. When I go to internationals, I get on a bus and say, somebody blow a B flat. I want to sing. Okay, I love hearing the Stormfront and everybody else, but you know what? I don't even know if they competed that year or not. I couldn't tell you who was on stage.
Thanks.
Right? You're very welcome.
Thanks a lot. It was like 2010.
But if we want people excited, we got to give them that, right? And so we have to turn this around from, I agree, we have to turn it away from the contest, and we've been talking about that, but somehow I go back to our memorandum of collaboration from 2020 when we went there, and the first thing that we said is to change the culture around spring and fall conventions to increase the fun factor, making attendance more attractive and enjoyable, and increase the cost to value ratio. We were supposed to designate an activity chairman. I know, pandemic hit and everything else. Why don't we do this? Instead of throwing out the spring convention now, let's implement what we said we were going to do. We need that now more than we needed it then, right? So we got to be relevant.
Let me counter that. Can we afford to do? All you got to do is take
$150,000.
all you got to do is take the board meetings online and use the board budget. You've got the double panel covered. We can find out. Short. I mean, sorry. $12,300 is the board meeting budget. And how much is a single double panel cost?
7,500.
7,500.
I want this to be fun. I mean, I really do. I mean, I'm contest and judging, but to me, contest isn't what it is, but it's what it enables. It's a reason why we get together. It brings us some talent in here that we would have to pay for or something else any other way. And let's take advantage of this, that this is what we're here for, and it's the thing that drove me nuts, I mean, we talked about it in the move from one contest or 1 to 2. But for me, the big motivator, which I know wouldn't resonate that well, is if I go to that convention where I'm sitting there in a single contest, if I'm a competitor, I'm singing for 10 minutes out of the whole blooming weekend. And the rest of the time, my butt's supposed to be in that seat and we're going, shh, somebody on the stage, don't sing. Why do you do that? Is that fun? No. Right? If you want it to be fun, we got to give them what they want. And they don't want to be sitting there in their seats watching all that. They want to sing. They want to do other stuff. They want to get better so that they can go and perform. You know, let's sell it to them for what they want. We got to give them the services they want when they want it. And I think once a year is not when they want it. If we got to get it, you know, we have an opportunity here to serve quartets in the spring, give them what they want there, and find something that everybody else is wanting to make it fun and do that, make the time for that. I didn't like the qualifier for the courses either, but we said we got to get courses so that we can afford this. We made the decision based on money, not on service. We've got to find a way to find that service.
How many courses did we have last spring? The last one.
I had to.
And one of them was Artie's.
Yeah, which is gone. With 5 now, this time.
Yep.
Coming out, yes, they're smaller, so that affects everything. We have more chapters here than we did the last spring. So, and I think the coaching helps with that.
The coaching, I think, is the reason why.
Well, but some of them were coming before, only to qualify.
Yeah.
And we don't have to do that now. So we came anyway. Because you added something, is all I'm saying.
So just asking a question that was asked in the previous discussion, what does the end point of this discussion look like?
We need to determine what we're doing next year.
And we have to do it tonight because
We have to present.
we have, well, we got to start looking because we ain't gonna be here.
So
We're not gonna be at this location.
So let's have.
I think the big thing that, you know, for anybody that isn't aware, if we are going to one contest, then we have to structure all of our contests that are qualifiers around that. And we need to know that now because the cycle starts at international, basically. And so if we don't do anything now, then we risk not having qualifiers for some of our groups for a while.
And we would risk not having a venue for spring.
So can we vote to have a venue for spring and do spring contests? And then turn it into a convention so that we can get more people there? Can we do that?
Well, other than the fact that we're having that's what we've been trying to do for the last 15 years. I don't know what voting on that would change.
Did we do what we said we were going to do in our memorandum of collaboration and assign a activity chairman or a fund chairman to go and figure out what that means?
I think we've all been doing that.
No.
Jumping on one person isn't going to fix it, guys.
No, but one person can run a committee. One person who is
not going to fix membership.
Right.
Yeah, but one part, the one thing that does do is that puts focus and it kind of puts money where our mouth is, right? We believe in this enough that we're going to designate somebody who is going to be responsible for helping us find out what that is to do that. And they're going to be a committee. They're going to need your help. They're going to need your help. Okay, but one person needs to be responsible and we need to hold them responsible for coming up with ideas that tells us what it is that we can do that the membership wants so that they'll come and enjoy it.
I vote for Mark Holdeman.
I'll tell you, Rocky Mountain, years ago, they put together a fun squad, they like to call it, who had a chair and went around and talked to all the chapters to get ideas, which is what then informed what the plans were for the last 2 falls that didn't happen, which will go into the next thing. So whether it's successful or not, but they did do exactly what they thought.
So let me ask a 2-part question. Have we decided that the fall contests and the way that makes the fall weekend look like, that the fall can't be as much fun as what we're trying to do for the spring? And it's a dumb question. I'm asking it a reason.
No, it's not. It's not.
Let him answer the question because you asked. Go ahead.
Okay, so I remember a few years ago, Jim and I had a nice conversation after, because we've been trying to kick around ideas over there. And he told me of an experience that he had when he was over in Great Britain, I believe it was, over in the UK. And to me, this was just, man, we ought to do this, okay? Fall. We have that nice place. We have a nice big room that's across the hall that's over there, right? Get a wet bar over there, put a stage over there, let the quartets that just came off the stage go over there and celebrate what they did, sing, have fun, do tag singing and everything else, and invite people to go over there, okay? You can have a monitor up there with no sound, and when people see somebody that they want to see coming up on stage, they go from the beer over to the room there, and they go and they watch, and when they're done with that and they want to do something else, they go over to the other room and they're singing. Is that more fun than sitting in the seats?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
There's a pretty huge complication with that. And we could never hold that here. We couldn't hold that in the hotel because they would make us buy everything to the hotel.
No, I know. Well, what it means is that the bar would have to be paid for by the people that are there. But do you think barber shoppers are going to care whether they're paying for that if they're going to get a beer or something?
I'm just saying there's.
I know the hotel has to pay for the beer and everything that's in there. I get it. Okay. But we gotta start thinking about how to make things happen, not why they can't happen. Okay. Give them room. Okay, don't put beer in there. Okay, don't put any refreshments in there. Just give them a place to go and get rid of the signs out in the hall. Say instead of say go there, sing there, and find out where people are going to be. Because I think if you do that for a year or two, you may have more people over there than you do in the audience. Okay, I don't mind that.
Second part two. We've got to be careful how you answer the question. You might have set me up. So I'm gonna, part three of the question is gonna be servicing quartets. I don't think we're servicing 70 quartet members. I think we're servicing 3 or 4 quartets that may qualify to go to international. So I'm not thinking it's 70, I'm thinking it's 12 people we're serving, and we're already helping them through top down.
Yep.
So hold that thought. I'm not against listening to my favorite quartets twice a year. So leading back to can the fall be fun? I was on the committee with Mark back when we went to one contest, and I've got my finance hat on. That's what you guys like me to think about. So the money aspect, we know that we lose money on the conventions. I would love to get the fall convention profitable again. And I think that if we can make the fall convention fun, that we ought to figure out how to get 700 people back to that convention. And then when there's the overflow, which is why Randy Rinsey won the argument to bring 2 contests back. Charlie Hill, please forgive me. Charlie knows he needs 2 conventions a year. Randy, I don't like this argument about what if too many quartets show up? Or quartet.
I think that's great.
Well, or something. I mean, so that's the 2-parter. Can we get enough participation where there's the demand for a fall and a spring, as opposed to 197 people showing up this weekend with a max of 275, really, because of just the limitations here.
Well, that's
we already have it, right. That's the limitation of this venue. But can we get back to 7? Yeah, we're gonna have 300 in the fall. So I think what's killing me from a financial point of view is let's provide the services, let's provide them in the fall. Let's get people wanting them so much that we have to even provide more than that after we get to the economies of scale of the fall. So, and I'm hearing Jim's point about, well, we don't know what it's looking like. You got to invest for the future. I'm hearing all those, but again, 197 people at the spring convention, when we're supposedly giving them what they want. So 5 of our 35 chapters, 3 of which would have shown up anyway. We got 2 extra chapters to show up because of what we're investing in. Those are observations. And I like the camaraderie, and I even like having a beer with Mike. Maybe not after tonight, but I like seeing him so passionate about his speech, though. Thank you.
I'll say, oh, go ahead, Mark.
Another point is. Yeah. But, we're talking about getting 700 people back to the convention. We don't have 700 members.
Yeah, I know, that's a problem.
Well, and it all goes back to getting our chapters
Growing again.
because nothing happens without that.
Exactly.
And maybe we're ignoring that too much, so.
My question would be, if we're meeting once a year, are we going to ever do anything to change that? Because as long as we're coming once a year, it's always going to be a conflict.
Well, no, you said you can make it fun now.
No, I know, but the challenge, again,
Yeah.
the great challenge, of course, if it's a single contest in one weekend, all the chapters, all the quartets, it means that there's only 24 hours in the day, which means the lion's share of them are taken up by the contest. And that's just, I mean, we're trying to stretch all the things. We're trying to stretch the money because if we had unlimited funds, it would be easy and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. This is a question just from an observer, having come to a bunch of these. So how many more decades are you locked into DFW since the fall? 3 more years, 10 years ago?
I know, I know.
I guess I don't know. I don't know if you have any data from the members about how much they like that or don't like that, because I began to hear complaints about the venue there the very first time I came to one of these, and every year they got
7 years
louder
later.
and louder and louder. So I don't know if that's, again, people tend to get stagnated and I'm like, I gotta go back, I gotta drive in the airport, I gotta pay for the thing, or I gotta fly into it. So I don't know if that helps or hinders. It's just an observation from somebody who's coming in. Every year we see more people complain about.
Well, Greg Elam just moved to Oregon, so we can change now.
So the internet.
We talk about the convention aspect here, and I know I try to hold my cards back a little bit from my Evergreen experience, but it's really a different culture there than what I've had here. Okay. And I go back to look at what Division III is. I mean, we loved our division contests, I mean, conventions, I should say. I mean, we would always do things that were different. Division III really knew the convention model. Okay. So what they do on Division III, it's up there in the far north of Canada. All of the choruses and everybody there, they get the same music. They all practice that on their own and everything else. When they come to convention, Friday night, they come together, they have a little meeting like this. They have a big dinner for everybody. Okay, big hall and everything. They put a stage up there. It's an open stage. You sign up, you go, you throw together a quartet, you do whatever else. They get up there and they sing and they have a lot of fun and everything else, and they do all of that, right? You do that for a few hours, then everybody says, okay, it's time. Everybody that's in the choruses go into the area, they get together and they practice their songs. Each of the directors gets to direct one song. They get up there, they learn that, they sing those together, okay? That's Friday night, okay? It's nothing there. So then Saturday they come in, they do their quartet contest, they do their chorus contest, and then as part of their show, they have the all Division III chorus up on stage singing for everything that's going on. That's how they cap their weekend, is they end it with everybody singing like that, right? And everybody walks away with a smile and they say, see you next year.
So let's make our spring convention look like that.
Hey, I'm all for it, Yeah, even some of the other divisions, though, I was in a different division. I got blessed to go there just because I was, on the board, and I'd go up there a few times, so I'd see what was going on there. But even ours, going to Medford and everything right in the middle of there. Friday night was you might have you had the chorus contest, but afterwards we all got together and we had an afterglow. The afterglow was what was everybody's fun part, right? You got together after Friday night and you got to sing together. You heard people up on stage. You did a whole bunch of crazy stuff. And then Saturday when we finished the contest, we had another afterglow. And that's what it was all about, right? We had our rooms to go and sing in afterwards. That's why you went to convention, not because of the contest, no matter who was up there on the stage.
It's because we were singing. Okay? And that's what we got to get back to, because I think we're missing that. Even I think some of our rooms, when we have our 25 rooms, as we call them, what usually goes on in a lot of those 25 rooms is, a lot of people come in, the quartet comes in, they sing. What's everybody else doing most of the time?
Sitting and listening.
Sitting,
And
right?
And the chapters aren't commingling.
Right? So where's the tag room, man? Where's everything else for everybody to go sing, right? That's where the people want to be. And right now they're there because you want to hear Stormfront and others. Yeah, you like to be entertained, but I want to sing, man.
I will tell you that one of the things that Rocky Mountain has done the last couple of contests, which have been in Cheyenne and Little America, is turn the gigantic ballroom on Saturday night into that is the place. Instead of having, the venue doesn't really allow for a whole bunch of hospitality rooms and suites and stuff like that, although people can do that if they want to. Turning the room, which is the contest venue, Saturday night becomes the Afterglow venue, but the Afterglow venue is like the front portion of it. There's the stage. The back portion is where there's the cash bars and all the food and all the stuff. So there's singing going on all over the place, so that's the congregation place. So everybody's there instead of it's done now disappear, and everybody's again in these tiny little things. And so everybody comes there, which was a brand new thing in Rocky Mountain as a few years ago. Been successful so far, although again, it's happened for 3 years. So, and we always end up in that logistical thing, trying to figure out, and that challenge of when we're limited by a venue or we're limited by dollars, we're limited by the logistics and all of that stuff, it makes it much harder than, again, trying to go all the way back to the beginning, which is unless we know what our members actually want, then we make them come. We don't really know what to create for them because we think we know what they want, but we don't actually know what they want. Because you can create all the greatest things in the world, but if nobody wants them, then you created an Edsel. That's fantastic. It wasn't a bad car, but nobody wanted it, So I come back to that. We literally had to do that. I was part of that team. It was talking to chapters and talking to the presidents and going to see people, finding out, well, we have these kinds of ideas or any of those of interest. And what else do you have? Guys actually brought ideas, like having the choruses say, well, if there was coaching, maybe we could come. Well, we could do that. Well, great, they will come. Got to find out what they want and provide it, then they'll show up. And if they do, then great. Now you hook them. All right, now come into this room, now do this.
One thing I learned when I was on the board there in Evergreen, we had the year when we were doing the chapter visitations. Right? I mean, you know about that, Russ, and everything else, right? We were tasked, if you will, to go and visit every one of our chapters and talk to them, see what's going on and everything else. We learned a lot about that through that, right? It's one thing to be able to go on a phone call or an email or something else. It's another one when you take the time, you sit there and you go and you visit with the folks, you talk to them afterwards, you go to their afterglow, you talk and you find out what's going on. And so it's that personal contact and spending the time to do that. That's how a survey isn't going to give you what you want, right? You send the survey, and most of the time people, when you get a survey, if they even answer it at all, they're going to say, what's the answer they're looking for? Oh, there it is, check mark and go, right? It's a short, quick thing. If you really want to find out what they want, you got to go to them. You ask them a few things to lead them on. And once they start talking, you can figure out where the next thing's going to go. And after you get about 5 things down is when you start really getting into, oh, this is really what I want. Because they don't know how to say that unless you start asking and you start having that dialogue. And I think that's what's important, to be able to do that in front of our groups. That's what I love having the DEMs for that, because that's what they're tasked for. But I think it's also important for us to spend, make it a special effort. Let's do that again. Let's do a chapter visitation or membership visitation to find out what it is that they want, and then let's start pulling the things together. That takes a couple of years to get all this going, but I'd hate to see us throw out the opportunity to do something while we're doing that, because I think we're losing relevance. I think we're just losing relevance.
Which is a nice segment. We've been dancing around this for about 90 minutes. Now, we're gonna get back to the point. The point is, we have to make a determination tonight of whether in 2023 we proceed with two conventions or one. No matter what we have in them, I think we all agree that there's certain things that we're not doing without providing. But But we have a logistical issue, and that's that we have to find a venue. If we're going to have a spring convention. We already have the fall of the month's 20.
Can we just take a hand vote real quick of just where we are at this moment, this second in time? Of anybody that says we need to have a spring convention, because if everybody votes yes, then we'll know the answer and we can make a real motion out of it.
I'm fine with that.
I mean, I just want, I mean, I think we all have an
Yeah.
opinion whether we want a spring convention or not. I wanted to see a temperature of the room. Is that not too far out of line?
All right, so we'll just do it real quick and easy. All in favor of 2 conventions in 2023, raise your hand.
You got a half?
And all opposed. All-
Half a vote didn't count.
All in favor of a single convention in 2023. So we've got, Katie, how do you vote?
I honestly have no clue.
That's-
Sorry.
Is that an abstention?
I kind of want to because I don't know that I understand what we absolutely need. And I totally understand what we all want.
So how do you vote?
Well, let me put a different perspective on it. You guys heard my arguments about why financially, when I got my treasurer hat on, we lose money. So I don't want that controlling the vote. So now if I tell you we've got more money in the bank than we've ever had before, and we don't call it an experiment. I mean, right?
So can we proceed? Can we move forward finding a venue for 1 year for spring?
Yes,
please. Yeah.
And are we looking at high schools now? Can this be something simpler?
No.
Why not?
Because you really can't get most high schools to commit more than, until September before.
Right now, if you're looking at schools or colleges, they're currently making their reservations right now this month for the entire calendar year of next year. And then usually by June 5th or so, they open it up to nonprofits and things.
Over here.
Your battery's running low, Kate.
It's not, I don't think it's Katie's battery.
Not me.
One that's been a little skeptical of high schools, but I also think that there's opportunities. there.
Performing arts centers or whatever it is.
Whatever. venue.
So, yeah.
It's a cheaper.
But I think
venue.
it's, I think.
Yeah,
there's-
my vote would be in favor of having an event that's a district event in the spring.
Hey, listen, Katie's still talking here, guys. We're trying to plug in so we don't lose power.
No problem. I was just saying that I'm in favor of an event in the spring, as long as it's a district-wide event and open to everyone, whether it's a contest or not.
Katie, wait until we plug you in because we can't hear you.
She wants to make sure it's a district-wide event and not just like a divisional.
All right, try it again. We got power now.
My only point was I'm in favor of an event in the spring, whether it's a contest or just a convention or Harmony Explosion or whatever we call it, festival, something that gathers the people together across the district in the spring. And then we can customize it to, what our stakeholders want, kind of thing. But I'm in favor of something, but I guess I still don't necessarily know how we all feel in the room of having only the fall be a qualifier and then nothing qualifying in the spring. Because I think there is potential revenue for people, depending on the date of when they come in, if we have a later contest.
So I think that we would be having, I think when we agree that we're doing something in the spring, we're agreeing to have a double panel of judges and
That's
investing.
really what we're-
75. That's,
Yeah, we don't
we're
have
investing.
$100 question.
in the spring right now, but we do have to make a decision on whether we're gonna have a panel.
Yeah.
And that's what I was getting back to an hour and a half ago. We were talking about this is really, this is the determination here is, are we going to have a contest in the spring? A qualifier. That's really what this vote comes down to.
I can tell you, and this is probably a little bit of heresy, but take it for what it's worth. The other barbershop organization has a convention at the DoubleTree Hotel at the airport in San Antonio. They've had it twice. The last 3 have been canceled because of COVID. having one in 2023. And they have the facility, they have a ballroom that will seat 300 people, which I think would be good enough, large enough for what we need, at least for next year. So I could get on that possibility right away. I can stop right away on Sunday. But if you decide we want to have something, and that puts us way ahead of where we will be if we have to start looking elsewhere for a hotel event.
Is the idea right now to choose a venue?
No.
Okay, can we move forward on vote? Can we have a motion? Or does this motion need to be made to have the spring convention?
So the rules in place as they are right now is that we've already had something and we would just continue. The only thing, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Gary, the only thing we have to make a motion about is if we decide to change it next year. Correct?
Right.
So if we decide to go forward with status quo, all we got to do is get our butts to work.
And tell John to go find a venue.
Publicize.
Is there?
Sure,
Yeah.
but I mean, I guess what
Yeah.
I'm saying is if we decide to go to a fall only,
From
then we have to.
From
have a
our
vote.
perspective, there's nothing else.
Is there anything else on our agenda?
Actually,
Yes,
there is
good night.
something else that we need to do. If we are going to do, and quite honestly, let me back up a little. As the person who's
Instigated.
kind of instigated going to one convention, all that kind of stuff. These are excellent arguments here now. I'm kind of open to the idea of doing something in the spring, as long as it doesn't impose a financial burden on our members by requiring them to compete in the spring. If we can come up with a way to do a festival or something like that, given the fact that, and I've worked in accounting and finance for 20 years, you know that we do have more money than we've ever had. If we can experiment for the, what's that word, a couple of years to build something different that still has a quartet qualifier, but a festival, Harmony Explosion Brigade, whatever, something else aspect to it that becomes financially viable, I think it's worth investing a couple of years into that, given that we do have a bit of a cushion financially to do that. If after 2 years, we're still back in this, we're losing money left and right.
And only
we
300
still-
people are showing up in
Yeah,
the fall.
Exactly. Then we can still come back.
Yeah, I can say that if we're talking about qualifying choruses for fall, I'm out.
No.
Yeah, that was something that we tried and it didn't work. And that's the reason why we tried it.
Yeah.
And the
Yes, I
contests in the fall
understand.
were getting too big.
Yeah, I
Now
understand.
we don't have that.
But we purposely set it up so that we have 8 choruses that might show up and we would take maybe 4 others. And we wind up never disqualifying anybody.
Right.
And it's a waste of their money, a waste of their time. And that's why they don't come anymore.
Yes.
Well, that's
So
reasonable.
plus we were having 17 choruses show up before that, before we went to a fall only. And this buy and everything. And we were foregoing $10,000 worth of registrations. Just by plan. By design. That's what we designed our plan to do, was to eliminate $10,000 worth of registrations as the fall.
Because
you want to know how you pay for your panel? Here's how you pay for your panel. Make it a one, come one, come all in the fall.
But I think
Put that on a shirt.
that would be the one thing that we would need to change possibly tonight, because right now our district rules do say that the
Only 8.
only 8 make it to the fall and the other.
We already dealt with that for 2022. All we have to do is make that permanent, right?
Yes.
We did that in a
That
motion a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, we did. We made the exemption for 2022, because of, the pandemic and everything. We said fall will be open.
Yeah.
Spring is going to be, and that's where we have the coaching and everything else. If we want to make that permanent, and make that a policy decision, then yes, that is a change to the rules and everything else. That would be the motion to be able to do that.
I think Jody would be happy about that vote tomorrow.
Yeah, they probably would. Is that gonna be announced from stage multiple times this weekend? I would suggest that. Get that into the ears of people.
After the HOD votes on.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier, you mentioned something about if we want to pay for the spring, all we'd have to do is change all of our board meetings and HOD meetings.
Take them online.
So
What's the budget? 10,000, 12,300, something like that.
what you're
For
talking
board
about is
meetings.
board meetings, but that's specifically mostly related to board travel expenses to get here.
Board travel
We're in a
expenses,
hotel.
per diem and hotel, yeah.
Right.
And a food per diem.
So
Don't forget to turn those in, or you can all donate it this weekend.
yeah, what you're basically saying is that from that point forward, the board would be on their own to come to the conventions.
If they want to come to the convention, great.
Yeah. I
Well,
mean, to me, it seems to me like that's a viable way to pay for this, which eliminates a
Why not?
lot of my concern. So, and we have the technical capabilities, people are already used to doing it.
Yeah, we've been
At least
doing it
half the board
anyway.
shows up every month for roundtables anyway.
We're gonna do some of it tomorrow.
So we do need to vote on that extension or not?
The permit, you talking about the permanent policy change?
Only-
HOD, and it's HOD has to approve. it,
Only
right?
if you want to present it to the HOD tomorrow.
Well, I think the points are valid, and that is that if we're going to, you already made the statement that, you know, we don't ever want to go back to going to qualifying in the spring to be able to participate in the fall.
Yeah. I think
We can make that
that's right.
permanent, announce the hell out of it tomorrow, we'll get a standing ovation over that one, and then, you know,
So
some of the stuff we've been having over for the last 3 hours won't be nearly as important.
And 25
I think it would be a really good step, because if you remember how we started the meeting, one of the comments was, how did the society come up with this? Did they talk to the people? Did they listen to what they wanted to hear and anything else? Okay. And if we can go back tomorrow and say, okay, look, we've heard you. Okay. You know, your board, your leadership are listening to what you want. You don't want a qualifier. We're going to get rid of the qualifier. Okay. We are going to replace it with something more fun and everything else. We're working on what that's going to be. Listen for the announcements, but we're listening.
Well, we're gonna have to make that point loud and clear that we're working on things for the spring, because the consensus that we've gotten from the DMDs, and I've heard all the times, is people only want to travel. And that's been a huge argument against doing 2 conventions. Is that so many of our members, because they have to travel so damn far,
They don't want
only
to
want
travel
to do this once.
for nothing.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
so
right,
what
for
you're saying
something.
is that you think
If
we
they're,
had
the only
something that was
reason they're
enticing, they
traveling
would
is,
come.
if the only reason they're traveling is to qualify to come to fall convention, and everybody's qualifying anyway, why waste the money?
Then that has to be
But if
part
they
of how
can
we
come
present
for
it tomorrow,
coaching or something,
because I don't want them coming out of this saying, man, we told them we only wanted to come once, now they make us come again twice. We have to spin it a different way.
but this is them saying, I mean, if they come, they're coming voluntarily. They want to come. It's a whole different point of view than saying you have to come if you want to sing in the fall. And then them saying, I don't want to.
Now, that doesn't relieve us of the responsibility of making that spring convention as fun
Yes.
as it possibly can be, because
Absolutely.
voluntarily means
That's
they can voluntarily say, no,
Yeah.
I still don't want to come.
That's right.
But we still have to ask them, what do they want this to be?
Absolutely.
And then we have to deliver.
We have
Yeah.
to deliver.
Right.
Yeah.
But we've got to have that from our DMs.
Well, but
Are you working on a motion that we need to present?
I also see
There's a
that.
motion.
Oh.
I also see that, you know, again, if we go back to our memorandum of collaboration, let's implement that, because the very first thing in there is we need to bring fun back to our convention. We need to designate somebody to go and do that. We already committed to do that, and we're not doing that yet. So I think if we actually dedicate ourselves to doing that, and we make sure that we're going to do that.
I just heard Ed volunteer to be in charge of.
Are you still having a contract? All right.
I was just asking. I'm just asking.
You know, be on the committee.
I didn't hear it. No, 100% about their chapters. I'm just saying, we have the money if we wanted to designate someone to personally go out there. Couldn't we give them the money and say, go get them and find
How
out
would we do that?
exactly what's going on? Because the personal visits outweigh everything. Outweigh everything. And if you did that for 6 months, 3 months, whatever, and
been to that practice and went and sang with them afterwards, of course. But you talk to them, not just the president, but you talk to spearheaders within their courses.
So let's cut to the chase. If we can. Sorry. Let's cut to the chase because we've been dancing on this for a little while. It sounds to me, and somebody, if you guys don't agree with this, speak up now. But it sounds to me like we're leaning toward continuation of the current model that we have for 2023 at least. Does anybody disagree with that at this stage? No.
When you say current model, you mean
Spring
just
and
having a fall convention and a spring convention and the content, except for having prelims for quartets. Is up for grabs.
A convention and no Broadway.
What I'm saying is, we need to proceed with finding a venue for 2023 for spring. Because we already have a venue for fall for 2023.
That will handle how many people?
The fall?
No, spring.
Oh, spring.
Well, you're asking me to answer that? I can't answer that right now. It depends on what we come up with. The point is that does not require a vote, correct?
Well,
that
it does require knowing how many people you want.
Sure, but that's operational.
No vote for that.
There's no vote required for that. My understanding, because we're not changing anything now, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. So the only thing that we're talking about really needing to vote on, unless, does anybody disagree with that? So we can put that baby aside, right? Sounds like the only thing we have to vote on right now is whether we want to make the no qualifiers for choruses in the spring permanent.
Ball's wide open for choruses.
Presented to the HOD. You're done. That's a copyright. We've already done it once.
Because since we're not letting them vote on the other thing, we better let them vote on something to be happy.
So we already have a motion for 2022. We just modify that one, the wording of that one to make it permanent, correct?
What was the vote? Yeah, we do. Yeah.
You've got one from earlier, right? We decided this like 2 months ago, didn't we?
Yeah,
we did.
Yeah, the one from, I'm sorry. Yeah, the 2022-1 to waive the contest rules to accommodate the proposed slate of contests for spring 2022 only.
Right. So we voted on that tonight, right?
No, that was voted on February 3rd.
Yes. Okay. So do we modify that one and revote, or do we take another motion?
Yeah, we're
A
gonna.
permanent policy
Continue
change.
Make it permanent.
Yeah, so, but it would be so moved.
No, I'm asking you, I'm asking
Permanent.
very procedurally, how do we do this?
Permanent policy change.
Okay.
Because it's.
Until we decide to change it. I mean, we have too many courses.
It's, you would need a new motion to modify.
We just about did.
We can make up a new motion that says that we're making it permanent. Yes.
Yeah.
That's all we have.
Is anyone opposed to that?
And you won't. Once you buy
Thank you,
something,
affirmative.
And the worst problem we're going to have is 25 courses showing up in this fall that requires a quadruple panel.
We cross that.
And we'll,
We'll have to have it started on Thursday.
yeah.
We'll cross that bridge.
We can deal with that. My main concern is let's meet a couple of times a year at least. Let's make sure that we're having fun. Let's make sure that we're getting people singing, because that's how we'll be relevant.
Gary put it together.
I would suggest, and I hope y'all go ahead and do this. Let's put forth the task force that will contact other districts that have a spring convention and find out things that they do to make their spring convention fun. And I know Pioneer does some neat stuff. They have a deal on Friday night. It's an open quartet contest, if you will, or at least a show where people can show up, put together a quartet, right then to sing a song, or to have, they wanted to get the judges that are going to be there, get up and sing a song. There's a lot of different fun things. I think that we get a task force to go ahead and contact the other districts that do have this spring.
I'll do that.
That's the name of your thing.
The Fun Squad.
The Fun Squad.
I'm gonna talk to you.
Right.
limiting 6 quartets. How you did that innovation. Because that's where we spend our whole time is competing quartets.
Yes.
And it takes to do 13 quartets this weekend, just for the one opening contest, 2.5 hours. To do 10 quartets in the finals, it's almost 2 hours, a little over an hour and 45 minutes, just to do the on stage contest. And there's no way around that. And, that's time. And you did, if you have limited to 6 quartets, you can knock it out in an hour and then have the second set knocked out in an hour and let's go have fun. And I'm all for that. But it's when we bring in, 20, 30 quartets and we're 6 hours, 2 different sessions just to get through the first batch of quartets. And then quibble about bringing in not just the 10 finalists, but anybody else that wants another shot just for practice. And we have 12 or 15 quartets in the second round. And that's another 3 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours.
And the judges want to go coach.
And then we have to do all the evaluations. And then you say, well, we don't want to just do contests. We want to have fun. Well, fine, and get rid of some of the competitors and we'll have fun.
Sorry, Mark, your quartet can't compete tomorrow.
Let me take a stab at it. That the Southwestern District Board make permanent the waiver of Southwestern District contest rules, parenthesis, SWD motion 2022-1, in parentheses, to eliminate the requirement that choruses qualify in the spring to compete in the fall. Understood that.
You said make permanent.
This is your baby, so.
No, I know. I'm actually good. The Southwest makes permanent
What we're doing is we're making.
Yeah, I understand, but I think really, if you really get down to it, it's
just
very
change
simple.
the
All we're
sentence.
really doing is saying the Southwestern District has
Eliminated.
yeah, it has eliminated the need for
Section 4.3 that used to
the need
qualify.
for a qualifier in the spring for the fall convention.
Yes.
I think it just needs to be that simple.
Yep.
Okay, because
Does it apply to quartets and choruses or?
no, there is no qualification to quartets.
Okay.
It's only.
Yeah.
There you go. It's eliminated the requirement that courses qualify in the spring.
Yep. Short and sweet. Ready for this?
Okay. This is with Mike's question. That the Southwestern District Board has eliminated the requirement for choruses qualify in the spring to compete in the fall. Actually, we're amending the.
Amending the contest rules.
Yeah.
We're amending the contest rules to,
Which requires HOD approval.
as a policy.
Because it's a policy.
And then I'll be glad to go in and, update the rules. The hard part, so just from a technical viewpoint for me, there's a whole lot of other rules that probably need to change along the way. Because we're way behind where the society is. So that the edit has to be more than just that at some point in time. But I'm authorized to do that in that edit. And then we can adopt, after that, in the fall, we can take whatever document I come up with and we can take that in and say, okay, we can take another motion to accept these rules that implements this, but it also does everything else.
And all by Zoom.
I'm okay with that. Hey, I'm quite happy doing it that way. So that's fine.
So
Call.
that the Southwestern District Board amend the SWD contest rule to eliminate the requirement that courses qualify in the spring to compete in the fall.
Second. Do we need to affect it?
For first.
I'll make the motion.
Mike made the motion.
Do we, because we had a similar motion that eliminated it for 2022, do we need to put an effective in there, or effective immediately, or effective as of 2022? Anything like that, or is it just?
The date of the motions, I mean, this motion is going to supersede the other one in here.
Yeah.
So the
It
date
does the
is not
same thing.
required in the motion itself. That's
So if a course,
Move it.
if a course asks, all courses become.
Which they could.
They could already use. Yeah, but if they ask, yes.
You second?
And next fall.
Yes.
Does anybody second it? Mark.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Oh, Mark.
Who gave the motion?
Mike Ott, seconded by Mark. Is there any further discussion or do we call the vote?
Call the vote. I don't know if I can say that. You call it.
No, it's.
The president has to call the vote.
Okay, call the vote.
Call the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Katie, did we hear from
Oh,
you?
Katie?
Yes, still here. Yes, that was awesome. I loved the wording. I'm still here. It's great.
So you say yes?
She still wants, she still wants to bring her.
No, was it so obvious? Do I say no? Of course, yes. To the point that many of our choruses are mid-size or smaller. So this is supporting the existing membership as it stands right now this year and the next 2 years.
Good.
So everything we've been on the last 2 hours, we have nothing else on that topic to discuss, correct? Because we're not making the substantive change we thought we might have to make tonight.
You could have led with that, Scott.
Thanks.
Bazinga.
Next on the agenda, I don't know. is District president can make some comments or he can tell us we can go
Let's drink.
over here and.
Invite.
I mean, I've seen all these cookies and things and I think they're just for show.
Can't get to them.
Sing a song?
Sure. I hate that.
Somebody want to sing?
Keep the whole world singing.
Yes, let's
Because
do
it's
it,
how we.
Wait, there you go.
What?
Let's move to adjourn.
Me?
Yes.
Move to adjourn.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
No.
Sing a song.
I love.
All right, Katie, we'll see you tomorrow.
Wait, we're gonna sing a song. Go ahead.
Are you kicking me off?
It's fine.
Yeah, we're done.
All right, thank you all. We'll see you.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Thank you, Katie.
You're welcome.